Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Friday morning. Well. We had a little playoff basketball. We had a college football coach. Think he was pumping himself up, but I feel like he just really stuck his foot in his mouth. And I kind of like him, and I want to defend him. And on this, not even close. Laughable. Terrible thing to say. What was former BYU quarterback Steve Sarkisian thinking? Well, he's thinking he's under pressure getting the playoff, and they missed it last year because they lost 3 games. And yeah, I know they played Ohio State, tough loss. You don't want to penalize them for that, but what about the loss to Florida? Florida's terrible. Florida's been bad for a while now. This is a bad loss. You got squeezed out. I don't know what to tell you. BYU didn't have the bad loss. Didn't even come close to getting in. Alabama, Notre Dame got left out. People complained about Miami getting in, but then Miami made it all the way to the championship game and gave Indiana a battle. So they got it right. Sarkisian, if you missed it, was talking about how, well, there's a team in state who plays in a league. There's nobody in it. We could probably win them. We could beat them and win that league with our second and third stringers. Oh, please. I mean, how about a big old dose of shut the hell up? Come on. You could win that league with your second and third stringers. Okay, short attention span theater here. Do some of you remember the playoffs? Not this past one, 6 months ago, but 18 months ago? Texas was in them. And they played the champion of that league. It wasn't Texas Tech, who's the team he's referring to. It was Arizona State. And the game went to overtime with your first stringers. So stop with the demeaning second and third string stuff. You were in that league. Oh, it's a tougher league then. Yeah, okay, Oklahoma was in it. But in your last 10 years in that league, you went 51-38 and you won 1 league championship. You didn't exactly dominate. 51-38 in conference games in the last decade in the Big 12. And you can say, well, now it's watered down. They've let in all these G5 teams. Yeah, like BYU, a team that Texas has a 2-4 record against. BYU's won 4 of the 6 games. Not exactly a fluke. Guess what BYU's winning percentage is against Oklahoma? BYU's won 2 out of 3. Oklahoma won once in 3 tries. Man, when Oklahoma and Texas are at the top of their games, they've got better resumes. But they're not at the top of their games all the time. That's why you go 51-38 in the Big 12 over a decade. Now, if you want to point at a couple of Texas teams that won national championships, you got me. Those teams are awesome. But it's not like Texas gets to that level and stays at that level. They're not exactly the Saban-era Crimson Tide. You know, the funny thing is he's pumping himself up. He's saying how hard the league is. Come on, man. Just look at the scores last year. LSU played a 13-10 game with Western Kentucky. I mean, they won at home. Congrats to them. But 13-10? Don't tell us how awesome you are. It's 13-10. SEC teams lost to South Florida and Memphis last year. 2 years ago, Arkansas lost to Oklahoma State. The SEC's better than the Big 12. How many games did Oklahoma State win that year? 0. But they beat Arkansas, an SEC team. I mean, you can just go on and on. The SEC was awesome in the playoffs when they were paying money and nobody else was. But now with NIL and everybody's paying money, they've gone 5-10 in the college football playoff over the last 3 years. 15 games, 5 wins, 10 losses. Now, does that show how dominant they are? Also, one of those wins is over Tulane, a G5 team last year. So against power teams, they're 4-10. And if you throw out the 2 games when the SEC played the SEC, because people are still thinking the SEC is all that, take those out, because obviously you're going to go 2-2 in those 2 games. Well, now they're 2-8. The SEC 2-8. Stop telling us how awesome your league is and how tough your league is. Non-conference games early in the year, you're losing to Memphis and South Florida, who you turn your nose up at. In the playoffs, you're 2-8. It isn't new. You're 51-38 in conference the last 10 years, and BYU, who you turn your nose up at, both Texas and Oklahoma have losing records against. I mean, you've had 9 chances. You're 3-6 against BYU. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not the one losing the games. You are. And then Sarkisian comes out. We could win in that league with our second and third stringers. The arrogance is just dripping off him. And let's be honest, the whole bleeping conference. It is disgusting. as a guy who went to games as a kid, rooting for a school that's been relegated to G5 and isn't getting out, it's brutal. I hate it. I hate it. Some teams get to be in, some teams don't. San Diego State's got a good record against some of those teams. They've won against those teams. They split home and home with Minnesota. They split home and home with Oklahoma. Man, I remember I was at UC Santa Barbara, and there was a coach there who went to Stanford, and and they're playing San Diego State. And I'm a sophomore. Oh, Stanford's playing San Diego State. Yeah, San Diego State. San Diego State beat them, and then beat them again the next year. Swept them home and home. It's hilarious. I didn't rub it in at all, as far as you know. Sarkisian goes off like that, and the funny thing is, not a lot of people buy it, but I am glad not everyone's buying it. There's been some pushback on social media. He's a little bit of a lightning rod. Generally, remembering when he played at BYU, I kind of want to see the guy do well. He's certainly had his issues and problems. They're well documented. Hopefully he's moved beyond that. He had major addiction issues there for a while, and people like to bang on him. I know that. And he makes himself a target. And it's Texas. When you take the Texas job, people are just generally jealous of UT. They get so much money. But then they go out, and he's not the first Longhorn to say, A&M fans don't like Texas. Texas Tech fans don't like Texas. They'll tell you about Texas all day long. And he just goes out and reinforces it with this stuff. It's crazy. It kills me. Especially when the numbers are just there. The conference is trending in the wrong direction. Whatever, we'll get into this more later this morning. We got it up on our Facebook page, DJ and PK. A lot of you are commenting there. We'll get to that coming up this morning. We'll also talk Platte basketball. David Locke's going to join us later in the show. And Cleveland, I wonder if New York broke them in game one. If Cleveland wins that, they got all the confidence in the world. It was a decent game. It was a close game throughout the first half, close game at halftime. But in the second half, New York went on another run. It rattled. It was 53 all of a sudden. It was 71-53. What happened? Cleveland was chasing the rest of the night. Not an impressive performance. Too much one-on-one. The ball not moving enough. Maybe they'll get it together when they go home. I thought New York was going to win the series when this started, but I thought Cleveland had a shot. And I still can't tell you Cleveland has no shot. They were down 2-0 to Detroit. And they came home, and they won 2 and tied it up, and then they won games 5 and 7 on the road, and they won the series. But I think New York's better than Detroit. I thought Detroit looked flawed in the first round, and Cleveland somehow has eked out a couple of game 7s in this postseason. They're in the conference final for the first time. Good for them, but this does feel a little different right now, doesn't it? It feels a little different. All right, and then we got game 3 tonight. I'm really excited to see this. The only thing that keeps me from getting too fired up for this game is that I feel like whoever wins this game, the loser's going to bounce back in game 4. It just feels to me like this is going to be 2-2. I want to see higher stakes than, it's 1-1, it's 2-2. At 2-2, the series will still feel like a coin flip. San Antonio's coming when they get more experience, I hate to say this, I don't want this series to come down to an injury, but both these teams have had a couple guys pull up lame. It looks more serious for San Antonio than Oklahoma City. We'll see about Mitchell. We'll see how he is, but at least they have their stars. Wembayama and SGA are healthy. Although I say it looks more serious for San Antonio because I think their 2 guys play bigger roles, but Oklahoma City is losing their second leading scorer. So we'll see how long these guys are out for, see if any of these guys can come back, see if anybody else goes out. We got to kind of sit on that, but man, the Spurs are out there with guys who are 20, 21, and 22, and they are holding their own in the conference final. It's impressive. Guys this young don't usually do this. I think the Thunder are going to win this, but the Spurs, very impressive. Very impressive. All right, DJ and PK. We'll get to more of that coming up. David Locke's going to join us later in the show. You can look forward to that. And also coming up later in the show, we're going to talk with Pablo Mastroeni at 8 o'clock. RSL going to Minnesota, their last game before the World Cup break. David Locke at 8:30. And Chris Karpman, Sun Devil, Spruce on ASU, covering them for Spring Football Tour. We'll talk with him. Sun Devil Source. All right, DJ and PK, we're taking a break. When we come back, David Smoak, the always energetic David Smoak. We only have to put 2 or 3 questions. He's gonna take the baton and run with it. David Smoak coming up next. The Spring Football Tour takes us to Baylor, where there are mysteries. That's next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are joined now by David Smoak, the host of the Smoak Show on 365 Sports in Waco, Texas. David, welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us once again.
All right, I heard you guys. I heard your comment. Always great to be with you. What a powerful station. Great coverage. You might get in 2 or 3 questions with me. I know what that means. I get it. You when you have a talk show host as a guest, like if you guys came on with us, it's kind of I'm ready to go, buddy. It's always great to see you both. Good.
If you get bothered by a TV guy in Houston, that was my fault. I've given him your contact info, and I've given him this concept. I don't know if the station will want to do it or not, but I said, if you do this kind of spring football tour stuff, you got to talk to David Smoak in Baylor, because he's got energy and knowledge about Baylor football forever. So, I just volunteered away some of your time because you're good at what you do, David.
I appreciate it. You guys are too, man. It's great to even be talking about it. It means we're through spring drills and getting closer. We'll see everybody in Frisco in a couple of months.
Yeah, for sure. And, our market goes nuts on college football, which is great for me, great for us because we love the sport for sure. And we got 2 very good teams. We got Bronco Mendenhall up north. And then Weber State hired a local high school coach that we're all close with. And so we want to see what he could do at the Big Sky level. We're intrigued by that. And he's a disciple of Mike Leach's offense because Mike Leach has a connection or had a connection to Utah and helped teach the offense to the guys. So, college football, we're going to be up to our eyeballs and bring it on. We're excited for it. As far as Baylor goes, they get the quarterback DJ Lagway over as a transfer. And can I make the argument that as he goes this season determines whether Dave Aranda is the coach at Baylor next season?
Yeah. Absolutely. No question. They brought him in. Obviously, things didn't work out all that well at Florida. He had maybe a handful of decent moments. He was also, at times, he just never was really 100%. But that's not an excuse. That's part of playing college football. And it was a big deal. I don't know where this program, even though they got some really good young quarterbacks they feel good about, I don't know who would have been next option because they basically said, okay, take all of your eggs and let's put it in this basket. Now, Jake Spavital, offensive coordinator, they had a couple of, options to go to. But with DJ's father, a former Baylor player, Willis High School, just around he's down in the Houston area, but no question. I remember speaking with him. I had an interview with him back in late February before spring started, and a couple of things that came out. One, he's very transparent. He's also, I think, more comfortable here. Not that, again, Florida's a great, I haven't been lately, but a great program. But also, he did say that he's probably healthier now than he has been since he was in high school. And there was concerns about his shoulder in the first few throws in the first practice. You're like, But no, guys, no question. They had to bring in receivers. They had to bring in offensive linemen. But the bottom line is all of this revolves around can they protect him and can he be productive? He's got a gun. He can throw it. Now, can they protect him and can he at least give this team a big adrenaline push?
Baylor has been up and down, to be sure, over the last, you can go back 10 or 20 years, right? PK actually just compared it to Arizona State the other day. Man, there's some years you can point at and say, wow, that was a really good year. But then you look for them to follow it up, and they don't do it. And I read this one sentence, and I thought, I absolutely have to run this by you. Sikkim 365. Baylor found itself in a really tough position this offseason with the lack of resources committed by boosters due to the hot seat Dave Aranda is on. Elsewhere in the story, they're basically saying they're in the bottom half of the Big 12 NIL because people don't believe in the coach and don't want to write checks right now. Are people holding cash back, and is that going to cripple Aranda's efforts here?
I don't think they have enough. I think, let's put it this way. I think they have just enough to be able to put together the roster and bring a few people in. They don't have the kind of NIL, for example, that men's basketball has. They have more, but they don't have that kind of, excitement, even though Scott Drew the last couple of years they've struggled because they recently won a national championship. And Scott is great at recruiting not only players but also those who can help with NIL, and just had a golf tournament around the corner about a week ago, raised over $1 million just for that, which really, guys, let's put that in perspective. That might be one player for one year. Who knows?
Right.
As far as basketball, it might even be like a bench player. But no, yeah, you're right. I don't know if it's a lack of trust. It's kind of been a malaise. I had a conversation with Dave about a month ago in his office. No camera, no microphone, just sitting there talking about the system and where they are. And they're not in the mode where they have much more than what you have with the House settlement. Whatever that is for them, 17, 18 million. Of course, I know it's 20.5. Men's basketball gets about 3 or 4 million of that too. I think they were hoping when they changed ADs, when Doug McNamee came in, he's a really good fundraiser, but I don't think they've been able to get where they need to go. I asked this question when Doug arrived. Does Baylor have enough young, what I call bangers, guys who have a little bit of that ego, who are also wanting their names in the headlines and want to be like, and I'm not trying to say there's a bunch of Cody Campbells, because Cody Campbell really doesn't have much of an ego if you've ever met him and talked to him. He just has a bunch of money, and so does Tech. Baylor's not in that position. They've got a lot of old donors, and I mean old, I'm 67, that have put out millions of dollars on a lot of facilities and in some cases other things as well at Baylor. But, they're kind of now to a point where they're starting to protect what they have for whoever's next in the family. Baylor's trying to scratch out maybe 5, 6, 8 of the young donors, whether attorneys, investment, or just guys that own a bunch of things. But right now, I would say at most they're in the middle of the pack in the Big 12 when it comes to how much they can spend, especially in football. And probably a few people are not writing checks until they see it. Because I think everybody, had Mack Rhodes not gone through the drama he did, had he not been fired, Dave Aranda's gone. I know that. I know that. He's gone. And everybody likes Dave. Great guy, but you got to win. But if Mack Rhodes had not been fired or been in the position where he had to be fired, then there's no question that Dave Aranda would have been gone. And so that probably kicked the can down just a little bit down the road, so to speak, when people want to say, okay, we need to get behind whoever's the next head coach.
You talk about that offensive line, and I'm reading that they've got one starter at right tackle, Siraki, I think it may be how you pronounce his name, Caden, and they took some hits in the transfer portal there. What do they have to replace the guys that they lost?
Guys, I got to really be honest with you. That they brought in, like, for example, one of the young men, Kibble. He was at Texas, recruited by Texas, and of course, if you're recruited by Texas, you're probably either really pretty good or you're overmodulated as far as what people think. Let's be honest, that's true. They did bring in 4 or 5 offensive linemen, maybe even 6, through the transfer portal. They had to. But, yeah, Siraki has a brother, Colton, and Caden are both the ones that you're talking about. Caden's the right tackle. One of the issues last year, because Sawyer Robertson was good. He wasn't as good as he was the year before. He didn't run as much. He wasn't as explosive. They couldn't protect him anyway. And both lines, offense and defensive lines, were just not. They were at most, at best, on their best day, average. So they had to go into the portal and do that on both offensive and defensive line. I think they have a new offensive line coach. I think they feel good about who they have. But, again, I'm not going to get into – I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, my God, he's from here and he's here and he's here. You don't know anymore with the portal. Guy could be from San Jose State and be really good, or UAB and be really good, and the guy from maybe who was at Oklahoma transfers in, or Texas. We don't know that anymore because of the way the transfer portal is so fluid. I don't know who they are. I do know they have some young players that they feel like can come up through the system, including a couple of true freshmen. But let's be honest, you're going up against 20, 21, 23, 4-year-old guys. And so it's going to be a challenge for them. It is going to be a challenge for them. Doesn't mean they're not busting it, but it's going to be a challenge for them to get themselves into a bowl game.
They bring Joe Klanderman in from Kansas State as a new defensive coordinator, and maybe K-State's defenses weren't – they've been pretty good, but they haven't been great. But maybe that's last year maybe that was an NIL issue at Kansas State. Well, how is Klanderman going to change this? And I thought Aranda was a defensive guy, so how much freedom does he get to change this?
Have you guys ever seen that meme with Will Smith in a big house, a mansion,
He's
downstairs in the living room, and there's nobody else there?
Yeah.
Right.
I use that example. It's because Dave Aranda has not been afraid of changing coordinators or otherwise. Spavital's been in, and he's been pretty solid when he's been really good the last, 3 years. But Dave Roberts left, the defensive coordinator. They've been through other guys as well. Clanderman, we had a chance to speak with him. Clanderman is taking over complete control of the defense. And you're right, Aranda's supposed to be the defensive, genius, right? Guru,
right.
The Jedi when he was LSU, Wisconsin, Utah State, etc. And he is. He knows his defense. When people, even coaches say when he gets in front of a film or in front of a class or a clinic, he's just like, you're in awe. But he needs to get everything in front of him. He doesn't need to be worried about. Doesn't mean he's not going to give Clanderman some advice or look at some game plans or look at some film. He will. But he has to get involved in every inch of this program, from punting, kicking, coverage, all that. And he didn't have a choice. He's pretty much told, this is what you're going to do. You're going to let other people make decisions. Spavital handles that. Clanderman comes in pretty good. Of course, K-State last year was a mess. Opened up with that loss at Iowa State and Dublin, and they just never got going. And Kleiman, of course, was going through a lot of things, questioning the way football is run these days or college athletics, and he wasn't quite in it. He even admitted he's worn out. So I don't know how much that would go on Clanderman. But Clanderman, I saw somebody make a comment again on Twitter about some of the biggest storylines in the Big 12, and one of them is how Dave Aranda's defense at Baylor goes, so goes Dave Aranda. It's not his defense. He will have input, but he's not going to be calling the coverages. He's not going to be calling the scheme. In fact, Clanderman is going to make this scheme a little bit more, user-friendly by being able to mix a few things up. And listen, try what you can. Now, you still have to have the dudes all over the place to do it. But Clanderman, I think, may be a breath of fresh air for some of the returning players. And he also was able to help with a few transfers in as well. Aranda's not going to be in charge of the defense, even if they start 3-0 or they start 0-3. And 3-0 is going to be tough, but with Auburn in the first game. But I do think that Clanderman, from what I've been told, and what I've been told by more than just Dave Aranda, is that Clanderman has the keys to the car on the defensive side of the football.
There's a stat that's pretty wild, and we'll see how it goes this year. Last year, Baylor, when they went 5-7, and they were 0-7 when they allowed more than 165 yards rushing, and then they were 5-0 when they gave up fewer than that. And so the run defense was okay at times, but not nearly good enough, and there was a big difference there. And I know they got some transfers, and like you said, I can read their names and where they're from, but who knows how they're going to be. What are you thinking?
There's a couple of guys that interest me, but they lost their best linebacker, Keaton Thomas. He should have gone. He was going to get a lot more money, and he's a hell of a player. He had a good supply and demand. Their entire front defensive line, 5 of the first 6 guys, at least from, if you look at sometime either in the middle or at the end of spring drills, they're all transferred. They all are. There's one player, Jose Wheeler, who was at Indiana. So that tweaked my interest. And I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I haven't checked. But the last I remember, he had not yet been cleared. Now, we're 2.5 months away from camp starting. So he could play. Now, he could play, a senior from Indiana. But I don't know if he has yet been cleared, and that might be one of those bang-bang decisions sometime in August. They have a couple of guys who were hurt. Turner, the cornerback who was at Northwestern, who got injured last year, he's going to help them. At safety, he can play. But he didn't play last year because, again, he was hurt. So that always helps. Not just those you transfer in, but those who did not play last year. I'm not talking freshmen or those players, but guys that were transfers that didn't play for injury reasons. Here's one thing I know. Now, don't laugh. They have a hellacious group of special teams. They really do. They had a kicker, punter, all of that. Now, can they go coverage? So that's one. What I always have said if you're a 5-7 team, but you're really good on special teams, you can block a punt, kick field goals pretty consistently, maybe even have really good plus-minus kick coverage, lost yardage, you can win 7-5. If you're 9-3 and you have really good special teams, you might be better than that, but you have to have one of those, and I think that does help. Now, that's, again, they're on the field very rarely. The punt team was on the field a lot last year, and so was the kick return team. But I do think that they have some pieces together, but they have so many new faces, and it's just so hard. It's so hard to know. Okay, that's great. For example, wide receiver Draylen Miller from Colorado. He's from near DJ, where he played high school football. The young man that came in from Florida, another wide receiver. They're supposed to be pretty talented. They went to Colorado, went to Florida. They have a young man named Lewis Brown, a receiver who's a transfer, senior, big, tall, lanky body that might give them a little oomph. They don't have Bryson Washington, who 2 years ago, guys, remember, was an All-American freshman running back, and now he's gone. They do have Dawson Pendergrass, who's just kind of a plow horse that might give them a little bit of personality, and two good young running backs. I know I'm not, you know me, I'm going to tell you, I don't know who they are. I'm not going to, buy into that spring hype. I don't know who they are. I do know this. They're going to have very few injuries. It's an attrition game, and they're going to have to find a way. Someone that you don't know who's on the roster is going to have to be a lot better, maybe 5 players, than you think they are for this team to have a chance to get to a bowl game. I'm not trying to do doom and gloom. That's not I don't care. I don't lose any sleep whether they're 7-5, 5-7, 12-2, and 21 was amazing. They were fantastic. But they've never followed up on that year. They've never taken advantage of that year back when NIL and transfer portal started, and they're paying for that even now 2 or 3 years down the road.
Before we let you go, then, where is the bar for Aranda to keep his job? Bowl eligibility, is that enough? Has it got to be a winning record? Are they going to make him win 8 games? New AD, is he showing his cards at all?
Great question. I've always been, you got to walk before you jog, you got to jog before you run, and that's what it was like back when early years of Art Briles, because they had gone forever, guys, without being in a bowl game, like 16 or 17 years. And they did that. I don't think Dave Aranda has that ability to be that methodical or that. I think they're going to – here's my deal. I have not talked to really off the record with Doug McNamee about this, but to me, 7-5 is the absolute minimum. I don't care even if, DJ was to go down. Hopefully that didn't happen for his sake. But if 7-5 and then there's going to have to be a game or two in that 7-win total that's against somebody in the top third of the Big 12 conference or maybe even an Auburn, you're going to have to not just win 7, become bowl eligible. You're going to have a couple of games that show signs that you can play with the top third of the Big 12, which is what they used to do year in and year out for quite some time.
David, we enjoyed it as always. Thanks for bringing all the knowledge, the passion, and the energy.
You guys are great. Keep it up. Thank you very much, and have a great, great week.
All right, there is David Smoak, always entertaining, covering the Baylor Bears. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Andy Bailey joins us to look ahead to the draft. His thoughts: will the Jazz trade up? Will they trade down? Who should the number 2 player be? What if everything we hear about Peterson is just true on its face? What if there's no conspiracy theories? What if it's just, hey, at that level, his body started breaking down. He was in pain. He was hurt. That's why he was sitting down. It's not complicated. He wasn't faking anything. He didn't have a bad attitude. He didn't play because he was injured. Well, what does that mean for the future? All right, we'll talk with Andy Bailey next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 KSL Sports Zone. We welcome Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report, back to the show. Andy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. We gave you a little time, Andy, a little time to digest the draft lottery results. We know you keep an eye on the Jazz, even though you write about the entire NBA, got some ties to this part of the world. And I'm curious, now that you've thought about it, heard about it, maybe talked to people about it, what should the Jazz do, and what do you think they will do?
I think those two are going to be the same answer, and I think they're probably going to stay at number 2. I guess it would depend on what Washington asks for, but based on, and I guess this isn't much to base an opinion on, but like the fake trades that you see from media outlets, seems like it's too big of an ask from Washington to move up. If they really are insisting on like the number 2 and a future first and Ace Bailey, if I was the Jazz, and I would assume the Angels would see this the same way, I would assume they would just stick at number 2, because in this draft, I think you have a chance at a superstar, whether you're at 1 or 2. So I don't know why you would give up Ace Bailey in this situation, or even some of the scenarios that I've seen that are slightly less than that ask. I would still probably stick at number 2. I'm sure there's a lot of people in and around Utah who have their heart set on DeBonsa, but there's not even a guarantee he's going to go number 1. I think there's a real chance that Washington takes Peterson. And I think if you end up with either one of those guys, you're probably fine. And now there's this recent buzz that maybe Utah would like Boozer there too, and there's certainly a numbers argument to take him. So if Utah has wanted to move up for so long, and maybe there was a slight sting in not getting number 1 the night of the lottery, but of all the years to get number 2, this is probably the best one.
With that in mind, basically then there's nothing that the Jazz need to do, is what you're saying, because of all the years to get number 2. This is plenty good enough. So what I'm hearing from you is they really don't need to do anything. Whichever kid they get will be fine, and they'll be ready to play ball when October rolls around.
Yeah, I think need is a great word to plug in here. They can be very content to stick at number 2 and probably or maybe potentially get a superstar there. The other thing that I was just thinking of, and there's a track record of this with Danny Ainge, maybe they even trade down a spot.
Yeah.
Like if Memphis is desperate to get one of those 2 guys, DeBonsa or Peterson, and Utah really likes Boozer, maybe you get some assets out of this. And you still end up with potentially the best player of the group. I think there's still a chance that happens with Boozer. In my mind, and I'm not a draft expert, in terms of safety of the picks, it might go DeBonsa, Boozer, Peterson to me. Upside, it might go Peterson, DeBonsa, Boozer. I'm sure you ask 10 different people, you might get 10 different orders on that. So again, it's a good year to be number 2, because at least right now, it kind of looks like you can't really go wrong anyway.
You've been doing this long enough, and you've poured over past drafts. You know there is not a draft out there where the best player went number 1, the second best player went number 2, and the third best player went number 3. It never happens that way. You would always redraft it looking at pick 4, 6, 8,
right,
12, 14, or 16. So if they really throw everything out the window, and if they don't care what anybody says on draft night, and they just think, hey, this is going to be like draft whatever, and the guy who's projected at 6 or 8 or whatever is really the guy, we're going to do it, whether that's trading down or taking him at 2. Who would that be? Is that like Acuff has been projected anywhere from 5 to 7 or 8? Wagler from Illinois is in that same kind of range. And history says that one of those guys is going to be awesome and much better than the guys who are going to be taken in front of him if form holds. Who would it be, you think?
This isn't an answer to your exact question, because I'm bumping up in the range a little bit.
Okay.
I see what you're saying, and odds are there is going to be somebody really good in that range. But to me, I'm cheating a little bit. If there was a guy that I think could kind of break consensus, is Caleb Wilson. And I say I'm cheating because everybody has him at number 4, seemingly. But I wouldn't be shocked, just based on the video I've seen of this guy. The athleticism is pretty freakish. And that doesn't always translate to the right kind of skill development that you need and the right mentality. But I think he has a chance to be really, really special. I don't know if I would bet on it, or feel good enough about it to skip out on those top 3 guys. I still think, like you said, is there a chance that Utah shocks everyone and takes somebody not in that consensus top 3 at number 2? I think there's a chance, but I would be pretty scared to do that in this particular draft. I would probably, unless Memphis offers a haul or the Wizards ask for less than people think they are, I would probably just stick at number 2. And if it's DeBonta, great. If it's Peterson, great. And like I said, maybe you can even make an argument for Boozer. I'm not giving you guys a lot of concrete answers, but I think that's kind of the beauty of this draft is you can win in a lot of different ways here.
These players all have different levels of skill, right? And they all do something really good, and maybe there's not something that is as good, and you have a question mark. As far as the 3 players, because I think that if everything stays as is, then those will be in whatever order, 1, 2, 3, right? And maybe we'll be surprised, you don't know, but I think that's the way it would go. And so their particular skill sets and the knocks on them, Boozer not being athletic, DeBonta not being a great shooter. Peterson, I'm wondering, do you look at him and the knock on him is just the durability and maybe he checks the boxes on all the other aspects of the game?
I think durability is one, and I know that they have, after the fact, concocted some stories about his lack of availability, but they don't fully pass the sniff test to me. And so there's still sort of a mentality or approach question for him with me. The creatine thing it just seemed like something that an agent cooked up months after the fact.
Sounds good. Let's go with that.
Yeah. So I don't that part of it scares me a little bit. His measurables and his skill set and his tough shot making ability are all very, very impressive. And I think he has superstar upside. I think all 3 of these guys have superstar upside, and I think Peterson might have the most. Over the history of the league, we have a few examples of these sort of archetypal shooting guards that can become the face of the league, like Jordan and Kobe, and now kind of SGA in that mold. And I think Peterson probably fits that the closest. So I really like him. I think that mentality thing might be the single biggest red flag of the 3, though.
Oh, you do? Okay, that's interesting.
And that's not to say that it's like terrifying to me. If he was available at number 2, I would take him because of that superstar upside. And he may be a guy who just fits NBA basketball better than college. And maybe an NBA training staff realizes, oh, this really was a cramping issue, and we know how to deal with it. It could all be fixable stuff, but you have to get real nitpicky with all 3 of these prospects. So if I say that's my single biggest red flag of the 3, it's still a pretty small flag.
Maybe a pennant, not a flag.
There you go. Yeah.
Boozer and Wilson at 6'8" and 6'9", it bugs a lot of fans because they feel like, well, they've already spent $50 million on Jackson and $50 million on Markkanen, and now they're about to spend, I don't know, 25 or whatever the number turns out to be on Kessler, assuming that deal gets done. So they got their front line, so why would you draft these guys? Well, you need at least 5 guys to play through those 3 positions, and the 2 guys who are signed at $50 million are signed for 3 years, and there's a decent chance so they're flipped maybe after 2 years because you can't afford everything going forward, everybody at every price they want. So one is flipped. So I think that is 0 impact on this draft. If you think Boozer or Wilson is the best player available, then you take them. I think it will work out in the short run. There could be injuries also. And I think it'll definitely work out in the long run. So that wouldn't impact me at all. What do you think?
I think you are exactly right there. Generally speaking, if you're an NBA team approaching the draft, I think best player available should be priority number 1. I think it's pretty rare that a positional fit would trump best player available, and it certainly doesn't apply to Utah being as far away from contention as they've been the last few years. And you mentioned it in there in the question, there's the opportunity to trade. And so you take the best player available, and if he happens to be a big guy and he's ready to lead a team quicker than you realize, then maybe somebody like Markkanen or Triple J still has plenty of value around the league. you can loosen up a logjam in the front court, I think, pretty easily. And the way that the league is trending right now, this stuff can change on a dime. So, maybe it looks different in 4 or 5 years, but right now, an abundance of size and strength and physicality is pretty important. And so if you can get a big guy who's also super athletic like Wilson, and I would even throw in Dabonsa into this because he's pretty large himself. He's probably going to have to play some three, so there's maybe a little bit of overlap with Markkanen. But if you have an abundance of size, the way the league is trending right now, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, definitely not, for sure. And the Jazz have that. And with Ace Bailey, too, they have it even in
right.
abundance in the backcourt. And we'll see how he develops. You speak of Dabonsa, and, I've seen him in person. We've seen him in person. We've watched him every game. We're intimately familiar with him, and I'm sure you have a level of familiarity, too, not living too far away. And obviously games are available. And the knock on him is the pure three-point shooting. His mid-range, I just was not stunned because I saw it so much, but so impressed with his ability to get, at least at the college level, get around the free throw line and rise above. So I don't necessarily have any issue on that, but if he can hit the three, they can crowd him and blah, 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 and it'd be harder, or play off him and crowd him as he starts to move closer to the basket. Bottom line, what's your level of concern regarding his shooting from distance?
I would say mild at most. He's a guy who has a lot of skill, and I don't think, especially in today's NBA, it's unusual for athletes to figure out how to shoot over the course of a few years. And from what I've seen, he has the kind of demeanor. He looks like a player who wants to improve, which is huge, and I think he'll figure it out, frankly. What I love about Dabonsa is I think he checks a lot of the same boxes that the other guys do without many of the drawbacks. You mentioned the big one. We're not certain that he'll become a knockdown shooter, but even if he develops into like a 35 or 36% guy, I think with the rest of his skill set, that would be good enough. I think he has a lot of the skill, like tough shot making and getting to your spot, that Peterson has. I think he has a good feel for the game, like Boozer. And I think it's kind of underrated how big he is. If you've got a ball handler who can play the 2 or the 3, but is also the size of like a power forward and some small ball centers, I think that's a huge deal. So to me, he checks the most boxes. He's number one on my personal board, and he feels like the safest of all worlds to me. So is there some concern that he doesn't figure out how to shoot? Yeah. But that one's not really scaring me that much.
The one that scares me a lot is Peterson, because people make a lot of assumptions. But what if the truth is right in front of us, staring us in the face? The people who've known him a long time say, this isn't like him. He's not like that. So if people think it's an attitude problem, or it's an arrogance, or there's an agent informing this is what you need to do now so you can get paid later, I mean, it's plausible. You can't rule it out because that scenario has happened as recently as Ace Bailey, and he does not appear to be who he was portrayed to be at all. It's been night and day being around him, right? But what if the truth is Peterson, playing harder against better competition, did cramp up? What if it isn't about the creatine? What if it's really like he didn't feel good because his body was hurting? Period, end of story. There's no layers to this. It is what it appears to be, because I'm watching the Western Conference Finals now, and there's 2 guys on each team who are out. And in the regular season, we all say they're coasting. They're saving themselves for the playoffs. They don't really care about the regular season, and we get disgusted with attitudes that clubs and players take. But now it's the biggest games. Literally, this feels like the NBA Final. Whoever wins the West should beat whoever wins the East. There's nothing to hold back, and it's 4 guys, 2 on each team, who are either out or went down late in the game or went out partway through. What if Peterson's body can't hold up? Maybe they really are doing more running, cutting, and jumping, and bodies are breaking down more often. Nobody's faking it now. This is what they're here for now. This is the best of times. That means if his body really is breaking down, he is a super risky pick.
I think that's a valid concern. I think you're almost getting into like a league-wide issue here, and I haven't been able to get to the bottom of this. for part of the season, I wondered if teams were just over-reporting calf and hamstring strains, because those specific injuries, the reporting of them just went through the roof this season, and I wondered, is this a way to get around the player participation policy? But like you said, there's really no excuse for guys to be sitting out at this point, and Fox is dealing with an ankle, so his is different, but Jalen Williams is a hamstring. Dylan Harper last night was a hamstring. So I don't know if there's anything the league can do to address this, but it is something that I've been thinking about all season. And in that environment, to be looking at a player who could potentially have cramping and muscle issues, yeah, I understand why you have some concern there. His skill level, like I said, probably still trumps that concern for me, and I would hope, we'll get this guy into our program, we'll figure out what's going on, and he'll be fine. But you're right, there are players whose bodies just aren't as capable of handling the load as others, so I think it's a very valid concern to bring up.
Don't draft Brandon Roy right now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Wildly talented, but the body broke down.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick an NBA Finals real quick before we go? How's this all going to shake out? Who's going?
I think it's going to be New York and San Antonio.
Okay.
That's kind of what I thought coming into both of those series. I think both of those series are going to be pretty competitive. I think New York will probably get out of theirs earlier than San Antonio does, but I want to say it was 1999 or something. Those two teams met in the finals, so it's kind of a fun rematch, and Wemby's this emerging face of the league, and New York obviously has its fan base and its market, and I think that would be a cool, really marketable finals, and that's what I'm going with right now.
We appreciate it as always, Andy. Thanks for joining the show and talking hoops with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always love being on.
There's Andy Bailey. We'll take a break. When we come back, what is trending next? Pablo Mastroeni at 8 o'clock. David Locke at 8:30. Stay with us.
The all-new Tropical Butterfly Refresher is now at Starbucks. Dive into juicy guava and passion fruit flavors, with mango pineapple popping pearls bursting in every sip. Ice cold, instantly refreshing, and impossible to put down. Made for summer, only at Starbucks.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Your summer starts now with Memorial Day deals at the Home Depot. It's time to fire up summer cookouts with the Next Grill 4-burner gas grill on special buy for only $199. And entertain all season with the Hampton Bay West Grove 7-piece outdoor dining set for only $499. This Memorial Day, get low prices guaranteed at the Home Depot. While supplies last, price and valid May 14th through May 27th. U.S. only, exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
If you walk into a room and can't remember why, it could be nothing or something more. If you confuse a familiar recipe, it could be a slip-up. Or it could be associated with amyloid plaque buildup in the brain. Amyloid is a protein that your body produces naturally, but a buildup in the brain could lead to memory and thinking issues. To see what may be behind your memory and thinking issues, talk to your doctor about getting a full assessment. It's never too early to start the conversation. Visit amyloid.com to learn more.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know. News update. This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NBA.
The Knicks win Game 2. They are halfway through the conference final, halfway to their first trip to the NBA Finals since 1999. And PK, that third quarter run, I was waiting for the Cavs to punch back. Tie game at 53 and then like 18 in a row for the Knicks. Certainly 15 in a row. And the Cavs didn't really make a good run after that. They tightened the game up a little bit, but it never felt like they were going to win it.
Yeah, I think it was literally an 18-0 run. They were stuck on 53 for way too long.
Yep.
Exactly, DJ. And it reminded me of Game 1 down the stretch. They couldn't get in a bucket and they couldn't get stops. So you can take a synopsis of each of those games and have a 48-minute game. And obviously it went overtime in the first game, so add extra time to that. But there was a portion of it where everything that they tried to do just didn't work. And they got blown away, and they never really totally felt like they were going to make a run or a threat to get it down to a 2-possession game, 5 points, whatever. And they just had nobody who played beyond what they're capable of, and several guys played below what they're capable of. And they've been relying on Sam and Strus to come off the bench and put in some points. And I think those two were combined 2 of 15. And then Josh Hart had a real phenomenal game, and the rest of the Knicks sort of did what they did, and that puts them up 2-0. And in the best of 7, obviously, if you're down 2-0 and got to win 4 out of 5, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. It's not about Harden, it's about the move. And I realize those things are hard to separate, but when you move a major piece of a team, as Cleveland did with Harden, but there are a lot of other examples. It could be, it might not even be a trade. It could be, Boston welcoming back a star player a little early, but now you got to integrate him into the lineup. It could be Jordan coming back from baseball, and you got to integrate him into a team with, I think he came back with like 20 games left in the season, something like that. But Clyde Drexler did get traded to Houston, and they were the defending champs, and they did win it again. But I think most of the time you see those big midseason deals, it just takes another year. If it's going to work, it's going to take another year. And then you can get into Harden's shot selection. Is he too ball dominant? All that. I just think integrating somebody who's going to have the ball in their hands that much is hard for any NBA team. And I think it's finally showing up with the Cavs. They did a good job of winning 2 Game 7s to get here. It is a big ask now. And I do wonder right now, can they get Allen and Mobley going? Because those guys, they're on a lot of teams that match up with both those guys. And it's hard for everybody to get shots and everybody to have the ball, and there's a balance to strike and a rhythm to maintain, and all those things are hard to do. But I really like the size and athleticism of those 2 games, but it does seem like they disappear in games, and there are times I think, can you guys take over a little bit? And they're big guys. They don't get to start the offense. People have to get them the ball. And I know it's not that simple, but I thought they were pretty quiet, and it feels like that's just a matchup advantage for them in most games. There aren't a lot of teams who match up with those guys. You might match up with the perimeter guys because that's more positionless, but man, when you don't have the size and 2 guys are inside, they had one play, I can't even remember now if Mobley found Allen or if Allen found Mobley, but one guy's at the free throw line and he took one dribble in the paint like he's going to go dunk, and the defense came to him, slipped the ball to the other guy for an easy lay-in. I'm like, there are a lot of teams that can do that. It's an advantage. And we'll see. Maybe they'll shoot it better when they get home. Sam Merrill was, 0 for 7 from 3, so most of those were in the first half.
I don't know that I would count on Allen to provide much offense. I think he's more of a defensive guy.
Yeah.
Mobley's got some more offensive skill there. But, if you want to step back and look, Harden there, they've gotten to where they've never gone. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, it is successful. It's just that how much longer does he have? Is this something that you can build upon for next year when he's 37 years old? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Allen did go 13 and 10. It's not like he had a bad game, right? And maybe it's just me.
He's just not a big offensive threat. And he's so long and stuff. He can do things in that his length allows him to. But I don't think he's a 25-point guy.
And are there enough shots to go around for Mitchell and Harden and Mobley and Allen too? He's going to be limited in that regard also. So. All right, tonight is Game 3, Western Finals, Oklahoma City and San Antonio. I'm looking forward to this, PK. The first 2 games of this series did not disappoint. Thought they were pretty evenly matched. It's 1-1. I will not be surprised if we come back here Monday morning and it's 2-2. It's really what I'm expecting.
Well, I won't be surprised tomorrow if I wake
Tuesday
up and it's 2-1.
Yeah, okay, nice. That's bravo. Well done. We'll be back here Tuesday morning. Holiday weekend.
Correct.
Spurs are already without Darren Fox due to an ankle sprain. Could be without Dylan Harper tonight. He suffered the hamstring injury in Game 2 and needs to undergo an MRI. We'll find out probably later today, but if I had to guess right now, doesn't look good.
Yeah, and we'll see with the Thunder with Jalen Williams, who's been injured most of the season, off and on.
Yeah, he only played 7 minutes that game. And Mitchell went down and grabbed his groin. So we'll see if that was something major, if he's out. And how many guys are going down in this series, getting knocked out? LeBron James on the Lakers on a podcast at a week later. He says, I feel like we were just out-talented by OKC. They just possess so much more talent. At the end of the day, we failed in talent. You can tip your cap to them, obviously, and understand that, but you can't get caught up in that, especially when you know you're undermanned.
Well, yeah, I mean, Doncic didn't play. He didn't play 1 second. So, and you can argue that they weren't going to beat him without him. We'll never know, obviously, but clearly, I mean, that's dog bites man, duh.
As far as is he moving on from L.A., is he going to retire? Is he going to go somewhere else in the league? I'm still in the moment, just taking my time. I haven't really thought about it too much. Obviously, I understand I'm a free agent and I can control my own destiny. Being here with the Lakers for the foreseeable future, but somewhere else. I think at some point in June, late June, as July rolls around, free agent starts to get going. Maybe into August, we'll start to get a kind of feel for what my future may look like. August. Utah. Go to a good team on a minimum and give him a title. He probably don't want to go anywhere on a minimum. That's a fan talking right there. All right, DJ and PK.
#NFL.
There are golden parachutes, PK. On your way out the door, they give you the gold, and the Rams give Matthew Stafford a 1-year, $55 million extension. So he's got 2 years on his deal with the franchise, worth a total of $105 million. How about that for a pile of cash?
Yeah, I don't think that the Rams are really sacrificing too much, because if he's good enough, you'll get that back. And then if he's not and he wants to retire, well, then you're not on the hook for it. I don't know that the whole thing is guaranteed. And he's turning 38, I think it is. And so they have this opportunity to see what he does in the 26th season. And if he can stay healthy, it didn't look like at the 25 season that he had really slipped that much, or even noticeably. They would know, obviously, a million times more than I would. So I see it as a very little risk proposition there.
When you say they'll get it back, are you talking in the sense of selling tickets and luxury suites? Are you talking in the sense of going back to the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, one
or
leads
both
to the other, right? I mean, if you're going to have a successful season, and really, you know, I know the Rams have been talking about when they play, as teams in our side of the country do, you end up with fans from the other teams, but they pay money too. And so at least, you know, from a financial standpoint, I mean, I realize, and the Cardinals deal with that all the time when Green Bay or Chicago or whomever comes in, you know, there's so many fans from the other team. And I get that, that's an irritant, but I'm just talking financially, their money counts. So I don't think it's an unwise investment if he plays well. If he doesn't, he may decide, hey, I've had enough. If he gets banged up 3 or 4 times and his body just says, come on, this is plenty. We're done here. We're pushing 40. So we'll have to see how it is. And they don't have a quarterback ready to go that could step in immediately. Who they drafted somebody. Who was it?
His backup is going to be Ty Simpson.
Right, the Alabama kid. And so he has an opportunity to learn a little bit here. So at least for this year, and then if it goes into next year too, and Matthew is playing well, that's a good thing, and it allows Ty more opportunity to develop and watch and so forth. So you could see it's a smooth transition. When I saw this yesterday, the first thing I thought to myself was, oh yeah, that makes sense.
At $55 million, that's a lot of your cap space, and there's probably ballpark 10, 11 guys in the league who are over $50 million, and it's a 50-50 proposition on whether giving a QB that money gets you the playoffs. He's a pretty good bet in that regard, because obviously you can look at his track record. You know, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, we know Miami let him go now. Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, they're guys who have made the playoffs, but then missed them last year. So it's a little iffy once you start giving a quarterback that kind of money You better get it right.
But what else are they going to do? He has some leverage here.
Does.
He can use retirement as an opportunity to gain some more money if that's what he's looking for and his agent is looking for. When healthy, I think he is minimally a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback.
What he's been doing there in their track record, his contract was worth in the 40s. Now, obviously, it's been going up, and now they give him this extension. So he's had a lot of success there, but now they got 10 or 12 more million bucks they're spending on a QB that they can't spend somewhere else. They get a little break because the cap is going up. So that's part of it. Chicago Bears reiterated that they plan to leave Soldier Field and the city of Chicago. Their two options, because you got to have leverage, are Hammond, Indiana, or suburban Illinois, where they bought the former Arlington Heights racetrack, which, of course, is what the Rams did. They bought a racetrack that closed in L.A. to get a big enough piece of property to build their stadium and to build a whole entertainment district around it. That's where the Clippers' new stadium is, on that same piece of property. So it's a similar plan if they do that. And it's not that different. I mean, Arizona went to Glendale, right, at a point when that was on the edge of town and kind of wide open, and now everything's grown up around it. Decade later.
Yeah, I think the Hammond Hoosiers sounds pretty good to me.
It is across the state line. Still the metropolitan area spilling out, but it's a ways away.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the Jets and the Giants.
Right. DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
Brian Seeley, CEO of the 11-month-old College Sports Commission, said he's actually heard more good feedback than bad as he started making the rounds at league meetings. But he says there is a lot of people grousing about his and the CSC's role. I was hired to launch the CSC and enforce the rules as written. It's totally fine with us if the rules end up changing, if there's consensus to change those rules. But until that happens, we're going to enforce the rules as written, and that's what we were told to do. Yeah, he's in a tough spot here because the group says they want rules, but people also want to win, and they're looking for an edge, so everybody's pushing the envelope, so they don't really want the rules. I mean, the NCAA is an association of all the schools. Now the CSC is an association of all the schools. It feels like they're having the same kind of problems for the same reasons.
Well, I don't think that at any decade you could go in and not say the same thing.
I agree, yeah.
College sports is a big ball of contradiction. I mean, the winning that is involved and the connection that big-time alumni have and the pressure that these coaches are under to try to win, and there's an opportunity to cut a corner, to break a rule, and some of the rules are archaic anyway. And so we just go on, and away we go. And at least from the football perspective, we go doom and gloom. And you know how I hate that, because it seems like, and if you judge ratings and whatnot, it seems like college football is on top of the world, but yet everybody tells us it's a mess.
Well, we've been told baseball has doom and gloom, and look, it's emerged from whatever gloom was real, and there was probably a portion of it that was real, but it was way overstated, and they've even emerged from that portion. They got new momentum. This decade feels way different than the last one. Tweak the rules. They certainly got some energy from that. They have another round of good young players. The doom and gloom.
You're talking about MLB?
Yeah, I'm talking about MLB. It goes back to what you were talking about the other day. Like when people tell you, they go all Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Like there are real problems, and problems need to be addressed. But it doesn't mean the end of everything. It's not that, But in a hot take world, sometimes that's, people can stand out by pushing that. Whether they're a commissioner, a team president, a politician, a sportscaster, a random influencer on social media. It doesn't matter. You can get traction in any of those places sometimes with that.
Yeah, no doubt. No about that. And sometimes hot takes can be totally taken out of context, and we'll get to that at 7:45.
All right. I look forward to that. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Well, some of the big names are back and some aren't, PK. For the Yankees, Garrett Cole scheduled to make his return to action from Tommy John surgery, facing Tampa Bay. Beware of the beast. Look at the Rays. First pitch set for 5 o'clock. That's a big game in that division.
Absolutely it is. Yeah, sure. And Tampa Bay, we talked about it yesterday. They're second or third from the bottom, I think, in the payroll. And then they just keep winning. Man, it's just amazing.
In the short run, it's 4 in a row, but their bigger hot streak, which dates back to mid to late April, They were 12-11 after they lost a couple games to Cincinnati, and they salvaged the season or the series finale. And since then, 21-4. Yikes! 21-4. Garrett Cole, good luck. It's the first place Rays, 4.5 games up on the second place Yankees, so a big game in the AL East.
Yeah, and Aaron Judge is slumping right now. He had the golden sombrero 2 nights ago, and then last night the whole team didn't even score.
Tigers ace Tariq Skubal completing his third bullpen session since undergoing surgery to remove loose bodies in his pitching elbow. He and the team have no definitive timeline on his return to action. So put him on hold.
Well, I think I'd rather have loose bodies in my elbow than loose elbows in my body.
Okay, sure. Silver lining there. Yeah.
Right? Could you imagine loose elbows? I mean, Victor Wembanyama with his loose elbow, man, he could kill you.
Tigers got beat by Cleveland 3-1 last night. The Yankee game you referenced, 2-zip the Blue Jays over the Yankees there. The Athletics needed 10 innings to beat the Angels, but they got it done. The Athletics, who had been terrible, are now 50 games in, and they got a winning record, 26-24 after that 3-2 win. Angels, meanwhile, are terrible, 17-34. They're down there in the old Chicago White Sox territory. The White Sox are out of that realm now. They're much better. But the Angels are there near the bottom, about as far down as you can go.
I saw that Sacramento wants in on the expansion possibilities.
Yes, I did. I did see that. The Athletics' $2 billion dome stadium on the Vegas Strip is taking shape with the lower bowl closing in on completion. Officials said the project remains on schedule to open before the 2028 season. And as far as Sacramento wants in, I get that. But we both lived in California for a long time, and it is hard to get public money to build a stadium there. It is much easier in other places. And Sacramento, once upon a time, tried to do that to get the Raiders, even started digging a hole and pouring concrete. See, we're doing it. Just give us a little more money, and we'll finish it. And then it didn't, and it just sat there as a hole in the ground with concrete in it for a while. And that story hasn't been repeated that dramatically, but there have been struggles in San Diego, L.A., and San Francisco at times building things. So I'm sure they want it. I don't doubt that. And they've got the size. It's a big metropolitan area. It's sprawling. Yeah. But I don't know if they can put a stadium together.
Isn't that at its core, every building that's made of concrete, simply concrete with a hole in the ground?
Yeah, but usually you have the whole thing financed when you get to that point. And usually you keep going and you build and the building rises against the skyline and all that. And this one didn't. It just sat there as a hole in the ground.
Don't push against the momentum. That is, what is that called? Major League Baseball Utah? What's that group called?
Big League Utah.
Big League Utah, yeah.
Big League. I knew it wasn't Major League. Big League Utah. Yeah, we got the momentum. We got the financing. We got the land.
Yep.
We got the beat.
Old school. Bees beat Tacoma 8-3. They play again tonight at 6:35. You can get out to the ballpark, and if not, you can listen to Tony Parks on 1280 The Zone. DJ and PK.
#RSL.
Last game before a long World Cup break for Real Salt Lake there in Minnesota. Tomorrow, first kick is set for 2:30 at Allianz Field, and coverage on the KSL Sports Zone will begin at 1:30 with the RSL pre-match show. They are flying high, just picked up back-to-back home wins. They're sitting in third place in the West, and Pablo Mastroeni will be here at 8 o'clock to talk about the final game before the long World Cup break.
Now, usually when there's a big break, the announcers usually take off to exotic lands. I mean, I literally have been in Cancun with David Locke during the break. So which island are you going to?
The plan was literally to go to Oahu, but events have intervened, and we will not be traveling, at least in the early part of the summer.
So Acapulco now?
No. The gorgeous Wasatch Front, PK. Staycation for us.
Well, that's a nice time to be here.
I agree. It is. Summers are spectacular.
I'll go for you.
That's very selfless of you, PK. Say hi to my aunts and uncles and my cousins and their kids, okay?
Yeah, we'll do.
Literally, our oldest kid will go for us. He's gonna go out there and see the family. So
cool.
Utah Royals try to extend their 8-match unbeaten streak against the Denver Summit. First kick, 4:30 American Field. Coverage on 1280 The Zone starts at 4 o'clock. Coming up tomorrow. There you go. DJ and PK.
NHL.
Montreal Canadiens blowing out Carolina 6-2 in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Tonight's Game 2 in the West. So the two big dogs, PK, Carolina and Colorado, both stormed through the first two rounds. Both had the best regular season records in their conferences, and both have now lost the opening game at home. I mean, there's a long way to go, but no, starting off on the wrong foot.
Yeah, I mean, force me to take, I would still go with the big dogs, as you say. Yeah. And so we'll see. As I said with the Cleveland Cavaliers, you get down 0-2. Obviously, you got to win 4 out of 5. It's not impossible. Many have done it. But the task becomes extremely much more difficult than it was if it's just 1-1. 1-1, I think. When you're 1-1 in a series, it's probably okay. And unless it's like there was just several years back when Mitchell didn't play in that Game 1 and they lost to Memphis.
It was full goal.
And then they came back and won the second one. It was 1-1, but we never really felt like, okay, that's going to be much of a series, and it wasn't. But that's a 1 versus 8. We're much more along in the playoffs than that.
Yep. Okay, Game 2 tonight, Vegas, Colorado. That's 6 o'clock on ESPN. What is Trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. All right, coming up next, Steve Sarkisian firing off. Oh, he didn't say Texas Tech, but he meant Texas Tech, the SEC, looking down its nose at the Big 12. How dare they, PK? We'll get to that next. David Locke is here at 8:30, Pablo's at 8, and Chris Karpman, Sun Devil source and 24/7 Sports, is here at 9 o'clock for our spring football tour. Stay with us.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeComb.
Look, I remember the early days of Shaq. If you're kids these days, you just only know Shaq from inside the NBA, or maybe the later years when he was hopping team to team and was a little out of shape and bigger than he needed to be. You go back and you watch those early 1, 2, 3 years when he was in Orlando, when he was svelte, and that dude, you watched him, you're like, he's changing the game. Shaq changed the game.
With sheer force, and you're exactly right, there was a revolution when Shaq came, no question.
And what we're seeing now is Wemby doing that. Wemby is changing the game of basketball. Not that you can replicate it, because you can't. You can't replicate Wemby, or we'd all be trying to go to the DNA, the dinosaur DNA with the old dude on the island and trying to recreate. You can't. That dude is one of one.
Welcome to Jurassic Park. Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Nerds. Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Ever Google a money question and end up 12 tabs deep with 12 different answers? This podcast is your shortcut back to clarity. NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast breaks down financial decisions with a team of trusted journalists. They explain the why behind decisions like investing, home buying, and choosing credit cards with clear research-backed insights. No jargon, no misinformation. Make your next financial move with confidence. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast on your favorite podcast app.
The KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. KSLSports.com/contest, and listen every Thursday afternoon to Jake and Ben for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Steve Sarkisian, presumably referring to Texas Tech, says Texas backups would probably go undefeated playing Tech's schedule this year. How about that? Oh, yeah, win that league with the 2s and 3s, PK. What a horrible take.
Why is it a horrible take?
Because he's not going to win the league with the 2s and 3s. Texas in the league for the last decade they were in the league. They went like 51-38 with one league title.
He also lost 10.
Sarkisian wasn't there the whole time.
Okay, so Sarkisian's there now. He faces the Big 12 champion in the college football playoffs. You got your guys. Everybody's going full speed. And congratulations to Texas. They won in overtime. In overtime. You're not winning that league and going undefeated with your 2s and 3s.
He also went 17-10 while in the Big 12 as their head coach.
And he would say that he's ramped his program up since then.
Well, he has. I mean, he took off our program. It wasn't that the coach was promoted or retired on a high. When you're replacing coaches that have been fired because of losing, and it's hard to walk on water and have immediate success in the SEC, no less. And I realized at the start that wasn't the case. I don't think he means that literally. So I'm not going to hold him to the literal 2s and 3s as far as that goes. I think he's trying to make a point that, hey, we're all fighting for the same thing here, but we all are at different levels. I mean, if he chose Texas Tech because they're sort of the new kid on the block, the upstart with all the money, right? Not that Texas lacks money, for sure. That's not the point. It's just that that's sort of local. I mean, would you have been outraged if he had said James Madison, for instance, or Tulane? But they're not in the state. I think the point he's trying to make is we're fighting for these 12 spots, and there are such uneven amounts of playing fields that it's sort of ridiculous in that way. We're all not in the same pot doing the same thing. I think that was the point, not literally that he could put his 3s out there and win the Big 12. I don't think that that's what the point that he was trying to make. I think it was a much bigger point. So I'm not going to hold him accountable. Put your 3s out there and let's go. I don't think that that's it. The point that he's making is much bigger than that. And there is some validity. Kyle Whittingham talked about for years, hey, if we're going to have a playoff and we're all going to strive for the same thing, then you got some schools, some conferences playing 8 games, others playing 9, and that 9th game could make the difference between you getting in and not getting in. I think that's the issue.
I think it goes to, and I'll buy your point, okay, it wasn't literal. The problem is it'll stick. Even though it wasn't initially literal, the whole point is we're so good in the SEC and you're just you. I mean, it's a classic look down your nose comment. And the SEC was all that until 3 years ago when everybody started paying big NIL money. And the last 3 years, it's shown up, and you can slice and dice this so many ways. And last year, he was bitter he wasn't in the playoffs. Well, you lost to a Florida team that went 4-8. They were 3-8 against everybody else.
What conference are they in? They're in the SEC.
Florida lost to South Florida, who's not in the SEC. LSU is a big game.
And at that point, you can have Grand Canyon winning the national championship if you want to hopscotch. This team beat that team. This team beat this team. You can do that forever and a day. We know that.
It's not just South Florida. There were a whole string of bad results. The SEC lost to Memphis. The SEC lost to South Florida. LSU scraped out a 13-10 win over Western Kentucky. Don't tell me you're special. In the last 3 years, they're 2-8 in the playoffs when they're not playing a G4 team or each other. When they're playing each other and the G4 team, you add those games in, they're 5-10. That's not special. Now, Sark, to spin the argument, he's got the 2 and the 2-8. So maybe it's not the whole SEC and he can try to stand apart from the SEC because one year they did win 2 games and they did beat ASU in overtime. I just don't see the big separation. I don't see the SEC dominating people in the non-conference. I don't see them dominating in the playoffs. I didn't see that school, granted, different times, different rules, but I didn't see Texas dominating when they were in the Big 12. I don't see why he gets to look down the nose at him, except for we won a lot of BCS title games when we were the only one paying cash.
Who is the better conference, the SEC or the Big 12?
The SEC, by a narrow margin. By a narrow margin.
Yeah. I mean, that's dependent. I mean, who has more guys drafted? I mean, whatever.
Right. The more guys drafted, and I think there's 3 teams at the top of the Big 12 that have really, last year's a great example, they really handled the Big 12. The year before that, ASU had a big season and won it. We'll see if they can sustain it. It doesn't look like Colorado can sustain what they had. And I think the top of the SEC is probably about a half dozen schools out of their 16.
Sure, and so that's all you need, though.
Yeah, so 6-3 or 6-4. But Texas Tech, you'd run over their schedule. Tech did play the top of the league and went 3-0 and looked awesome against the top of the league.
And
they
then
look
they
terrible
couldn't even
against
score
Oregon.
a point.
I know they look
Oregon.
terrible against Oregon.
Come on. So, I mean, he's got credibility in what he says.
Oregon.
It's just that it's harsh, and we want to stick up for the Big 12 because they're the hometown conference. But step back from that, and I don't need – obviously, we got guys over here pulling stuff that I say, so it's not going to make me look good. I get that, and so I'm the one with the hot take, and I got to take the heat, even if it's taken out of context. If you look at it, his conference is harder to win than the Big 12. And so it's harder for an SEC team to get to the playoff than it is a Texas Tech team.
No, that's the part. Because they are given because of that, and because I do buy into that a bit, they get more bids. They had teams in. They have 3 or 4 teams last year. Georgia was in. Alabama played Oklahoma. Am I leaving somebody out? I can't remember. They got 3 or 4 teams in, and the Big 12 got 1 in. Why is he complaining about the one who got in? Because that's what he's doing. He's complaining about Tech.
Because they're the ones down the street, and people in his environment, in his neighborhood, so to speak, metaphorically, they're talking about, well, look at them. They did it. That's if he were in the Big 10, he would say, well, look at Indiana. They did it. They're the upstart, and you're the legendary program. And so I'm trying to look at it from his perspective, not necessarily that I agree with him. Heavens, I'm not saying that. So hopefully they don't run that out and put that out there to say that I agree with him. But I'm trying to look at it from his perspective, not just take shots and look at me. I'm going to carry the banner for the Big 12 because BYU and Utah are in there, so that's going to make me popular. No, that's not what I do. I'm trying to look at it from his perspective. Texas probably taking heat in the state because of Cody Campbell and the amount of money that has been dumped into that program, which hadn't won anything. Texas Tech, right? Joey McGuire is Urban Meyer. Utah hadn't won anything in 50 years. And Urban Meyer comes in and he gets some conference titles, right? And so Joey McGuire, Texas Tech hadn't won anything in 80 years, and he comes in there on the backs of Cody Campbell and the other guy, Sellers, I think his name is, and they got all this money. They go out and they buy a guy like Bailey, who was not even thinking about Texas Tech until they said, hey, please, just please consider it. And then he sees the money, and all of a sudden, man, go Tech. I'm a Red Raider through and through for a few months so I can cash the check. I mean, come on. And so obviously he's going to say, from Sarkisian, is going to say, hey, wait a second here. Look what they're doing. That's outrageous. And they're doing it in an easier conference. You can say it's this or that, but the conference, it's easier to win the Big 12 than it is to finish third in the SEC. That's what he's saying. Now, do I agree with it? Well, I'd have to investigate it, but I'm not going to investigate it. I'm interested in the fun and games of all sports. That's what I want. I'll leave that up to you. Gratefully, and I mean this literally gratefully, you'll look at the numbers because that's what you do. And so I look at it from the emotional and the fun standpoint. That's what he's saying. We can go back and forth. And the way I look at stuff like Jordan or LeBron, well, who's better? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I boil it down to the simplest common denominator. The game's on the line. Who do I want taking the last shot? Do I want LeBron or do I want Jordan? I want Jordan. That settles it for me. I don't need to have all this other, well, he played here and blah, 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 blah. You could spin yourself in a top going about 1,000 feet into the earth if you wanted to do that. So I think that's what he's saying. It's harder to finish third or second than it is to get the automatic bid in the Big 12, particularly with this new kid who really hasn't done anything except spend a whole heck of a lot of money and buy talent. That's the essence of Texas Tech, and good on them because they're not going against the rules. But the fact is, they didn't earn anything. They bought everything.
Texas Tech buys everything. Texas Tech does buy a lot of stuff, but Texas buys a lot of stuff too. So to me, that's a wash. Yeah. I agree with you totally that he's feeling the heat. And the reason I look stuff up is because my memory fails me. I just debated with myself. I know. I just debated with myself. Did they get 3 or 4 bids? I looked it up. They got 5. So they got 5 bids. He tied for 5th. Mm-hmm. He lost to Florida. He can be bitter about A&M getting in, and A&M beat Notre Dame, and you lost to Ohio State, and they didn't lose their Florida-type game, and you did, and so your reaction is like, well, we got 5 and they got 1. Let's take their 1 away. No,
I don't think he's saying that. He's not saying take it away.
He didn't pick on A&M, and he didn't pick on Ole Miss, and he didn't pick on Georgia. He picked on Texas
Tech.
Tech.
Conference, so of course he's not going to do that.
I know, but I think that those two leagues, the SEC and the Big Ten, going off and doing a playoff and leaving a Big 12 behind is a real threat. And when I hear what he says, regardless of what he meant, and I am totally on board with, he may not mean what I'm hearing. That happens all the time. It happens to us as hosts. I think you think it happened to you super recently. So I get that happens. And it might be happening to him right now. But what I heard was, we're the SEC and you're the Big 12. Okay. We got 5 bids and that's not enough. We need your bid
it wasn't
too.
Enough. He wanted in.
That's exactly it. And I reject that. I think 5 was enough. Sure. I look what you did with the 5, and that wasn't good enough. There were 12 spots in the field. You got 5 of them, and you largely fell on your face. You know,
I don't disagree with you.
They also dismissed the ACC the way they dismissed the Big 12. And while Texas Tech did not cover itself in glory, getting shut out 23-0, and we both watched that game, and we agree there was no call. There was nothing that could save them. Oregon was way better, right? But at the same time, Miami, and there were plenty of people complaining about Miami getting in. Miami got in and won 3 times, beat an SEC team on the road in Texas A&M, held them to 3 points, not like A&M covered themselves in glory, beat Ole Miss on a neutral field, and then pushed Indiana and lost a really close game in the title game. And I think the SEC would take the ACC's bid away in a heartbeat. I agree. Texas Tech's in the backyard, so he's complaining about Tech not Miami.
And the Big 12 would take the SEC's bids in a heartbeat. So they're no different there. You're acting like he's on some mount by himself.
Well, because Joey McGuire didn't come out and say it, and Sarkisian did.
Well, you don't pick a fight if you don't have to, right? So why would he have to?
He got in.
Joey McGuire is loving life and living life to the fullest because of the bank account. So he's not going to respond. He's not going to say anything.
Do you think he feels a little bit of pressure?
No more pressure than anybody else feels.
Well, Sarkisian. Does he feel more than Sarkisian? Because I think privately, Cody's looking at him. Cody did not like 23-0 in the playoff. So,
yeah, but see, I think you're living in the past here. This is politics. And Sarkisian isn't the first coach to start politicking. That's all he's doing right now. Is he's not worried about what happened in December and January. He's politicking for the 26 playoff. And that has happened a million times over. They all do that. Right? They politic like crazy to get in because it's a beauty contest. It's not like the NFL. That's why I was so jacked about the Utes going to the Rose Bowl, because Kyle didn't have to politic. All he had to do was kick the crap out of Oregon, kick the crap out of USC, and you're in. You don't have to degrade yourself and become a 2-bit politician that tells us. And what is politics? The other guy sucks. You listen to politicians, and within 2 seconds, they're telling you about how the other guy sucks. That's what they do. They don't tell you how good they are. They tell you that the other guy's a bum, and the world is going to end. Democracy as we know it is going to perish. You'll have no freedoms. They'll come into your house and take you out and throw you wherever. That's politics. College football playoff, except for the automatics, they are politics. So he's starting his political campaign for the 26th season in May. From that perspective, it's actually genius, because people around the country in markets where the NFL isn't king, or you don't have MLB, or your NHL or NBA team isn't in the playoff, what are they doing this morning? They're talking about what Sarkisian said. And so from that perspective, it's genius of what he did. I'm not going to just wrestle in the nuts and bolts of what he said. I'm going to step back and think, wow, that was pretty smart. It's not whether I agree with it or not. That's not the point. I don't care whether I don't even care whether I agree with it or not, let alone if somebody else should. It's he's starting the campaign for the 26th season. Don't give the Big 12 a second bid. Our teams would kill those guys. We're way better. Whether he is or isn't, it doesn't matter. It's a campaign. We'll never know, because the 2s and 3s won't line up against Texas Tech.
DJ PK, Pablo Mastroeni at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. David Locke at 8:30, and spring football with Arizona State at 9 o'clock. And Chris Karpman joins us. So stay with us right here on The Zone. DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK.
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen, you have something to say.
Yeah, Lauri Markkanen did not sit out because he wanted to sit out. I understand fully that most of the times he sat out last year and in prior years is because the Jazz wanted him to, so they can get the pick, the very pick that they have this year. And I use Lauri as an example because until Jaren Jackson got here, without a doubt, Lauri Markkanen has been the best player on the team for the last 4 years. So that's why I used him as the example where I'm tired of watching him sit. It's because I was tired of the tank, and I believe in his ability to play at an all-star level. And yeah, we were having fun with his hair. Why? Because he's a way better looking guy than I am. And so he seems very personable. But the talent that he has is something that can lead this team to a decent playoff run for the first time in obviously since the All-Stars were traded away. So it has nothing to do with that he's dogging it by any stretch. And that's not the case. I think it was misrepresented. If you take a snippet of something and don't have the full context, it doesn't show up as it should. And the context is that using him as the example because he's the best player. And then when I said 17,000 people, they were tired of the tank and they want to see Lauri. They want to see Jaren Jackson and Keontae George. And if they re-sign Kessler, and whether it's Darren Peterson, DeMonta, or Boozer, they want to see these young men out there playing ball to the best of their ability. That's the point. So, and I don't have the best relationship with some people inside the Jazz organization. So I need to make sure that they understand that I am not taking shots at Lauri Markkanen. I think the guy's amazing. I've been watching him since he's a freshman at the University of Arizona in the Pac-10 or 12, whatever it was. And he was a high pick by the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know all about that, or Chicago Bulls. And I watched him in both places. And now he's at Utah and he has the opportunity to do some special things. So I am not taking shots at him that he's dogging it and purposely sat out because he did not want to play.
I get that. And now I'm going to tiptoe close to the line, PK. Oh, look out. Hold on. The notion that will he play this next season? And I'm going to double down on that and say, will Jaren Jackson Jr. play next season and how much? We've seen big guys who are asked to run and cut and all the things you're doing with 4 guys or 5 guys on the three-point line, and you're helping and you're racing all over the place. It takes a toll on big guys' bodies. Now, I'm with you. I totally agree. He was sitting this past year and this past 4 years, not because he was hurt, maybe in just a small handful of cases he was, but most of the time it was the tank. It was the tank. It was the tank. It was the tank. But these two guys, Lauri and Jaren Jackson Jr., have been in the league a combined 17 years. And they've played 70 games in a season a combined 2 years. Now, tanking, sure. And they've both been in the league for a couple of years where there were only 72 games, but they played roughly 50 games or 55 games in those years. I think Jackson played maybe 57. So the way the game is going and their history, do I have a little bit of doubt in my mind that both of these guys are going to be available for 70 games next year? You bet I do. And I am super intrigued to see what happens if they re-sign Kessler and they put these 3 guys out there. The Jazz, typically, when they've had really good teams, they've been really good. They've been very skilled, but they have either had the same size or less size than the teams they've been going up against at some key positions. Stockton at 6 feet was going up against getting double teamed by 2 6'6" guys in the finals against the Bulls. It was a major disadvantage. The Lakers towered over the Jazz in the Carlos Boozer, Mehmet Okur era. And they were throwing 3 7-footers out there themselves. I'm super intrigued to see what happens. But when I got 2 guys, well, I guess you're throwing Kessler with a 3rd guy, but the 2 guys have 17 years, and they only have 2 times they played 70 games. And there's a few extenuating circumstances, and I'm factoring that in. Okay, with the pandemic, there were 2 years you didn't play a full schedule each. And they certainly were set because they were tanking here the last few years. 1 year for Jackson and 4. But nonetheless, when they're out there and asked to run and cut and jump for 75, I think there's a real thing going on here, or I don't think we'd see 4 guys hurt in a Western Conference Finals that everybody, including the 2 teams playing in, has been anticipating all season long. Everybody's been waiting for this. I know these guys want to be out there, and there's 4 guys I got questions about. And certainly some of them aren't going to be out there tonight when they play Game 3. So you bet I have questions about the Jazz next year. How could any of us not?
Yeah, that's fine.
How could any of us not?
We'll see what happens. That's why I said next year is a moment of truth for Lauri Markkanen. And if you want to put Jared Jackson into that category, I'm absolutely fine with it, because then we get to see all things going forward towards the push of winning, and there'll be nothing that gets in the way of winning. And these fast 4 years there were. I believe that he'll play enough to get the team in the playoff. I don't know that he's the best player anymore, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. This is not a shot at Lauri Markkanen. If Jaren Jackson is better, great. If Keontae George is better, great. That just means that the team is really good, because Markkanen, no matter who is better than him, doesn't take away from the fact that he's a really good player and can do a lot of different things. But durability and availability are going to be an issue, as they are with all teams. LeBron, arguably the greatest player of all time, is talking about that his team was out-talented, and they were in large part because of Doncic not playing 1 second, and that sucks every which way. There's no doubt about it, and we'll see where it goes. And that's why, I'm super intrigued for the 26-27 season to get here as soon as it can, because I think it's going to be a wild ride one way or the other.
If you had Kessler in, they've played 3 70-game seasons in 21 years. Kessler played 74 his first year. Again, tank-induced. But when they need to play it, and when you start playing more games in the playoffs, are they going to be able to do it? And we're seeing 4 guys right now who apparently can't do it in the Thunder-Spurs series. All right, DJ and PK, we'll have more on this going forward. We got all summer to talk about this and obsess, because October looks super interesting and much more exciting than it's looked like in a long time. When we come back, Pablo Mastroeni joins us. David Locke at 8:30. Stay with us.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Nerds. Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Ever Google a money question and end up 12 tabs deep with 12 different answers? This podcast is your shortcut back to clarity. NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast breaks down financial decisions with a team of trusted journalists. They explain the why behind decisions like investing, home buying, and choosing credit cards with clear research-backed insights. No jargon, no misinformation. Make your next financial move with confidence. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast on your favorite podcast app.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined now by Real Salt Lake head coach Pablo Mastroeni. Pablo, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Pablo, 1 game and then 7 weeks off for the World Cup. You're not going to have to talk to us for a long period of time. You got to be looking forward to this.
Not really, DJ. I've realized that this constant roller coaster of coaching keeps me sane. Actually, I think time off just makes idle hands are the devil's workshop, as they say. So
that's
I'm not
my
looking
mother?
forward to so much time off.
You get 3 or 4 weeks at this point, because you'll come back with some kind of mini training camp, even though you won't be playing games for 7 weeks. You're not really going away for 7 weeks.
Right. No, and the great thing is we've identified, a few areas that are areas of concern, not concern as much as just areas that we need to improve on drastically. And so I think this break really allows us to kind of get in the weeds, hopefully, build upon what we've been able to do at the start of the campaign, but really be a little bit more detail oriented as to some of the areas where we can spend 3 or 4 weeks on improving before, the second half of the season is going to be, gauntlet as far as the amount of games, and then obviously Leagues Cup. And so, it'll give us a time to kind of prepare for that.
I don't think you have an MLS home game until August, which seems crazy considering they were in May, but pretty much everybody's in the same boat as far as that goes. Do you see any advantage or disadvantage for RSL relative to what the other teams are doing?
To be fair, PK, I don't know everyone else's schedule. I just think that, one of the areas obviously is how we deal with away games and do a better job of getting results away from home. Obviously, we have a big test tomorrow against Minnesota, and that'd be a good, test run as to how we manage games the right way, attack the game the right way. And so, if our schedule is such that we don't have a lot of home games from now to August, then the onus is on us to really, control what we can, which is attacking these road games with the right type of mentality.
7-1 at home, spectacular, but only 4 points from the 5 road games. I heard that after the most recent win, which was at home, that the talk in the locker room turned immediately to taking that performance and transferring it to the road. And you always talk about coach-guided, player-led. Hearing those kind of comments, that's got to warm your heart.
Yeah, it really does. I think, again, like I've said from the beginning, this is a special group where, the video sessions are interactive. The talks after a really good performance against our biggest rivals lends itself to, like, how do we become a better team on the road? So this is a group that really is thinking big, but also putting the work in during where I feel like we can achieve some big things. And so, hearing that after that game, I chuckled to myself and I said, wow, this is pretty amazing. Because that's the same way I'm thinking. They're thinking like a coach. They're not thinking like players. And when you have that, that's a group that can lead themselves. So super proud of the guys.
Well, you look at the statistics, and this is a game that is ripe for the winning, and hopefully you guys get it because you got the 25 goals in 13 matches, a 7-goal differential. And Minnesota, 17 goals, but has allowed 21. So what do you think about getting an opportunity to get up 1-0, maybe even 2-0, because then that puts an enormous amount of pressure on Minnesota?
Yeah, so that's been the focus, PK. I think, in our away games, we've started – not sluggish, but we changed our approach to the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, which is at home, very vertical, threatening back lines, creating chances on goal. And then away from home, our last 2 performances in Dallas and LA have been where we're trying to keep possession of the ball in our half. And so, it's almost a psychological thing where I feel like we want to manage games from the start as far as, like, preserve our energy, but we don't ask any questions of our opponent's back line. And so I think, like you rightly pointed out, this is a group that, is trying to play from the back, has been a bit more expansive than they have in years past. And the onus is on us to ask a lot of questions of their back line and the way they want to defend. So hopefully, like you said, we can get ahead of the score line and now manage the game from that perspective, which I think we've done a pretty good job of. So it'll be a good test for us. Again, a relatively young group that will be out there. But again, with the young group that we started in Colorado, I've seen a lot of growth and experience gained from these matches.
Minnesota actually has a better road record than a home record, which is very rare, but they only have 8 points in their 6 home games. And they've taken 13 on the road in 8 road games. So that's crazy. They have a history of defending RSL very well, both in the playoffs when you met and in the regular season. Are they playing the same way? Because tactically they were doing stuff that seemed pretty hard for you to break down. Obviously, you've changed your formation. I wonder how much they've changed over time.
Yeah, so they've had a lot of change really to the philosophy as to the way they want to play, where in years past, I think they were really comfortable letting the other team have the ball and really breaking out from transition and scoring goals. So they were real solid defensively, and that's what allowed them to win games 1-0, these really tight games. And once once teams committed a lot of numbers and they scored the goal, then it was very, very difficult to break them down. Where this year, I feel like they have some really, their front 3 are really, really good players. And in order to make them go, you're going to have to keep the ball. And so they've been more aggressive defensively and offensively. And so it lends itself to space and opportunities. But again, they have the firepower to score with possession as well. So, but I think, big picture perspective, they've changed quite a bit in the way they want to attack the game. And so it should be a different look, Minnesota. And we're a different team this year as well. So it should be a great matchup.
If you win, that would be 28 points from 14 games going into this big World Cup break. Pablo, there aren't many teams in Major League Soccer that go through a season averaging 2 points a game. And as you pointed out, the schedule is going to get so congested, you may not be able to do it either. But would there, given the fact you have 7 weeks, you're the king of looking ahead to the next game almost immediately. Would you take just a brief little window and have a sense of satisfaction, since you have a 7-week break, over how this first portion of the season has gone, if you do indeed arrive there with 28 points in 14 games?
Oh, absolutely, DJ. I think we talked about internally after last year, where we got off to a rough start, the importance of getting off to a good start this year. And obviously with a lot of new players coming in, you don't know how long it's going to take to gel. But really, since day one in preseason, the mentality of the group was really clear that we were going to be a competitive force in the West. And so, I think if we can finish that way, it would definitely lend itself to a much more enjoyable 6-7 weeks off, and obviously 3 weeks, and then we get back into camp. But I think it leaves everyone with a great taste in their mouth. And also for the player, from a playing perspective, it's that motivation to make sure that you're doing the work in these next 3 weeks. Even though, we want them to get time away, we also want them to maintain a certain standard of fitness so that we're not starting from scratch when we get back. And I think a win at the weekend would definitely help that.
You have players who are literally from all over the world. You got guys from South America. You got guys from Europe. Hey, you got a guy from Irvine. So, some guys have to go further than other here. I assume they'll scatter. Do you worry about their ability to get back? Visas and immigration, sometimes it's tricky. And when they're gone for 3 weeks, their ability to maintain conditioning. It's not an off season, but it kind of is. And some of these guys are going a long way away with a lot of travel.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, the visa situation is handled with guys in our front office and our team admin who do a really good job. And they keep their finger on the pulse as far as which countries will be more difficult. So those players will obviously be closely watched from that perspective. And then as far as the staying fit piece, our fitness performance crew, who do a fantastic job as well, are sending the guys away with a packet, and they'll just upload their workouts so that we have a good understanding as to what they've been doing. So like I said, I think the most important thing is making sure that we get off on we leave this part of the season on the right foot so that the motivation is there. Oftentimes, you don't win the game and it's like, poor me, and I want to take a break, and it's because we've been working so hard, and all these different things. But you win the game, and it's amazing how the mindset shifts 1 degree and goes, I'm going to stay fit. I'm going to be ready to go.
You've been asked this question before. I've heard you asked multiple times, and you've always said you don't know. And I just wonder, as we get closer, if you start to have an idea, even if you can't say anything, which I wouldn't like, but I would get it. Do you have any idea about Gozo and Luna to the World Cup? Have you heard anything at all from the national team staff?
No, they've DJ, and it's been obviously we've been in contact with our medical staff. Has been in contact with their medical staff in regards to Luna's situation. A tight hamstring, but as far as getting anything out of them, it's so tight-lipped. It's unbelievable. They've done a fantastic job of keeping their cards close to the vest. We have zero idea. There's talks that they might let the players know before the weekend. That hasn't been solidified. So, there's a good chance that we'll all find out when everyone else finds out. What
are you going to do with yourself this time off? Arizona, Colorado, Utah's backcountry?
Yeah, both. We're going back to Colorado, spend some time with the family, and the kids are back from summer break, so that'll be a house full again, which is rare. anymore once the kids move out.
Yeah.
So that'll be great. And then going back, and both of our families are in Arizona, so going hopefully to play some, a little bit of golf, early morning golf anyways. It's starting to get hot. So, yeah, just kind of hanging out. No big plans. My wife wanted to take a trip to Europe and go on a cruise, and it just didn't materialize. But I really enjoy just kind of hanging around the house. We do enough traveling during the season anyways, so we'll find some time to get some trips in, more local than abroad.
All right. Well, enjoy a little bit of time off, and hopefully enjoy Minnesota first.
Sounds great, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pablo. This is Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, joining us right here on The Zone. It's an afternoon game, a rare afternoon game, but there it is, 2:30 at Allianz Field. You'll hear the game here on The Zone, 1:30 for the pregame show. And then the World Cup. Tight lip, no leaking, no word. Luna's missed the last game with a tight hamstring, so we'll see where that goes. Trying to get him ready for the World Cup. DJ PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking NBA playoffs with David Locke, and I'm going to run past that theory. Am I worried about nothing? 3 70-game seasons out of 21 for the 3 7-footers the Jazz could be running across the front line. We will get to that coming up next. David Locke joins us right here. Stay with us on The Zone.
Welcome to This is Chase Scott and Ben Anderson.
It seemed like there's a little more buzz out there about the Jazz possibly trading up because they love A.J. DiBonsa. Absolutely do not do it, because I think both players are going to be good. Mm-hmm. It's one of those win-win type scenarios. But if there is a wrong decision to be made, Washington's going to make it.
Sure.
Whoever falls to the Jazz is going to be the better of the two. I would almost bet on it.
I don't think there's a lot of value in the Jazz feeling like they should go nuts to get up to that number 1 overall pick. If the picks are that close, why are you giving up a ton to get there? And then if they're not close and there's a major drop-off from number 1 to number 2, why would Washington trade it? Washington needs that guy. They think there's a superstar at 1 and only an okay player at 2, and the Jazz are trying to get out of that spot. Why would the Wizards do that? I don't think the logic actually adds up.
Don't be the sucker. Let Washington pick the guy that they want to pick. And honestly, if Jazz gets stuck, quote-unquote, with Darren Peterson, who cares? He's a great player.
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I drive my bus in a busy city. That's why road safety is so important to me. I know that I must slow down and be extra careful when I make a wide turn. Buses need more room than cars. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're driving, remember to give buses plenty of time and space to finish turning before driving ahead. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Kick off Memorial Day savings with up to an extra $1,000 off select top brand appliances like Frigidaire. Plus, get free delivery at the Home Depot. Stack your appliance lineup with a fridge with an extra large ice capacity and an oven with over 15 cooking modes. Then let the real MVP handle cleanup with a dishwasher's 50-minute wash cycle. Shop appliances at the Home Depot. Offer valid May 14th through June 3rd. U.S. only. Free delivery on appliance purchases of $998 or more. See store online for details.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Truckers aren't just moving goods, they're making sure bakers get their chocolate chips and hotels get their tiny soaps. But truckers can't do this if they're not on the road. That's why Progressive has over 360 heavy truck employees to help truckers stay on time and on track. Quote truck insurance today in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Nerds. Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Personal finance can feel like a pop quiz you didn't study for. This podcast is your study guide. On NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast, you'll hear from trusted journalists who explain the why behind major financial decisions. You'll get research-backed insights and clear pros and cons, whether you're planning a big purchase or just want to grow your wealth. Make your next financial move with confidence. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast on your favorite podcast app.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK.
Yes.
I have the TV on to my left, and this will shock you, but a New York-based TV sports show had a question up just in their last segment. Are you more impressed with the Knicks or disappointed in the Cavaliers? I couldn't hear the answers, but I could see the body language.
Well, yeah,
finally, we've
Knicks
talked about them forever. Finally, they're doing it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Obviously, they've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah, right?
And the Knicks drive it, man. They've always driven it back there, and back there tends to drive what they think the country wants to hear. That's what, and I'm grateful for that though, DJ, because that gives us the niche here for the local that we've been able to literally cash in on for a number of years, because the national shows, that's what they talk about. And you want local, you want guys who've been in the community for a long time and who know all these coaches and everything and the players and blah, blah, and follow it religiously. You've got to come to the local sports. And that's allowed us, it's allowed literally me to live out a dream.
Yeah. I have been the last, I don't know, year or so, maybe a little less than that. But certainly since the first of the year, I've been tracking a couple of national shows. I mean, there's a bunch you can track. And it's like, how is everyone reacting to this evolving media universe, right? Because it is not what you and I signed on for when we started doing this show. It is not that. We've talked, like, we get judged now. We've always been judged on the ratings, and we still get judged on the ratings, but you get judged on the streaming numbers, and you get judged on the download numbers. And there are a lot of shows are reacting, and I probably follow more than two. I probably follow 3 or 4 now that I think about it. One has reacted by doing a lot of showbiz. A lot of showbiz in it, but it's very much an entertainment show, and it's sports as entertainment. And super loose on the sports, right? But that person is cashing paychecks on a regular basis. They have found a niche. They're like, this is the lane. I'm going to drive in this lane, and they're consistent. And then another show has just gone all NFL. To me, it's my, and I love the NFL. And I'll talk a lot of NFL, and I am still very irritated the Chargers left San Diego for LA, and I'm still in on the NFL. I'm basically living through all my friends and relatives now and talking about their team. I got one person I talk to the Raiders about. I got one person I talk to the Broncos about. I got one person I talk to the Bills about. That's how I go around the league now and how I follow several teams. And so it's really interesting that people are taking these different strategies. And there is one show that is definitely LeBron, Cowboys, Knicks, Notre Dame, Alabama. That's like, and so to your right, it's perfect for us then, because then we can talk Jazz and Mammoth, and we can talk Utes and Cougars, and we get Pablo on. And there you go. Boom. Perfect. It's a good lane for us, but it is evolving. It is changing constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I meet people out there, particularly when I go down to southern Utah. You run into people who aren't from here, from the state, and what do you do? Oh, that's interesting. And then they want to talk to you about their favorite thing, which usually has nothing to do with what the locals are. And they ask, do you talk about the Edmonton Oilers? Literally had somebody who I played golf with, and he's from Edmonton. And I said, well, yeah, when they play the Utah Mammoth. I said,
we do.
I said, we do heavy local. That is our bread and butter. And that's what I'm paid to know about. And, and then we sprinkle in national stuff. And then we try to relate it to the locals. How does this compare? Oklahoma City, as they develop their team, how does it compare to the Jazz? What are the Washington Wizards thinking? That type of thing. And would Memphis consider trading, making a deal with the Jazz to get the player that they want? And it's all about the local thing. And and fortunately, it's no problem. I mean, I didn't grow up watching the Jazz, the Utes, or the Cougars whatsoever. When the Jazz were in the playoff against the Lakers, I watched them, obviously, in '88 because I was there, literally there. And so, I knew about them. And that's a national story, too, at that point. So it's not exactly difficult to do that. But you get into the minutia for all these teams, and it's no problem now, especially now, 30 years later, when I know so many of the cast of characters that are involved with the athletic administration and the coaching staffs and whatnot. And, want to see them all do well because it makes for good business. But it's an easy follow, the point I'm trying to make. It's not anything that I have to struggle to do and anything that I think, oh, my gosh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about that. No, it's actually quite easy to want to talk about this and watch that, whatever it might be, because it's fun and it needs to be made fun. And that's one of the things you hammered on me back in the 2000s is you got to have fun with it because it is entertainment. Sports is meant to be fun, and I want to have fun with it. And you have to get into some other stuff that isn't always the most fun stuff to talk about, but the games and the people and the personalities and so forth, that's what drives us. And that's what makes this job for me, literally a dream job. I mean, we use that expression, but I can tell you that's a fact for me. This is literally a dream job.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, and we are joined now by David Locke, the radio voice of the Utah Jazz. David, good morning.
David James, Patrick Kinahan. If you're going to talk a draft board, these are two of the guys that you would put at the very top of any draft board, but similar to the way it is in the NBA draft. You would look at their talents, and you would not really know how they could utilize everything that they have at their disposal until you see them in the big time. And then they would wow you, putting skills together you never imagined and rising to levels that only you could have dreamed of when you called their name on draft night. That is David James and Patrick Kinahan.
I feel like we lose a minute of good basketball conversation every week because you got to wind up and kick this thing off with whatever you come up with, David.
Yeah, I got 7 days, 24 hours a day for 7 days to try to come up with the next silly thing I'm going to do.
Right?
It's hard work. If you don't appreciate it, next Friday, I'll just say good morning. That's fine. If you don't appreciate the creativity to try to talk about the greatness of the two of you to whatever is the current trend of the day, no. Next week you get good morning. We'll see how you like it.
Well, you use your draft stuff. I mean, you need draft stuff for a month now. Because you often do that. Your silly thing is usually some topical peg. I was surprised you used the draft stuff so early. I thought you'd save it for June.
I can use the draft stuff for 4 more weeks. That's all anyone cares about.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, well, let's get to my mega question here. What if the answer to all these, 4 really good players at the top of the draft, the Jazz draft second, what should they do? Trade up, trade down, which player, all the questions. What if the answer to one of these questions is right in front of us? What if there is no backstory to why Peterson was hurt? He was hurt because he was hurt. Period. There's no backstory. He was hurt because he was hurt. And then you look at the way this is going to playoffs, and you're the first one who said, hey, the game has changed, and that's why there's so many injuries. We got these guys running and cutting and changing direction. It's especially hard on big guys like Embiid and Zion because they're just so big, but it's impacting the smaller guys too. And A.J. Mitchell went to UC Santa Barbara. I don't know him at all. I know people who know him. But obviously I'm watching him, and I see him grab his groin as he goes to the ground. And this is a young guy. He hasn't made a ton of money yet. He can one day the way he's going. He wants to make his mark. He's in a conference final. He's playing hard. He's having an impact in playoffs. When he grabs his groin, it's because he's hurt. There is no other story. It's because it hurt. And he'd be the 4th guy who's had a significant injury and missed significant time in just the first couple of games here, just getting started in this series. Should people worry about Peterson because of that? Period. End of story. The game is harder physically because all the running and cutting, and he's already been hurt, and this is going to be an even bigger problem.
There's a lot there.
You can handle it.
We lose 2 minutes of good basketball talk when DJ asked his first question.
I've been thinking about it all week. I tried to tighten it up. Sorry.
All right. Let me go with where I thought you were going at first.
Okay.
Like, Peterson just got hurt. He had a cramp issue. It freaked him out. He called it traumatic experience. He's got a little version of PTSD. Yeah. He's got to work through it, but he's a 6'6" guard who could score 25 a night.
Yeah.
And the answer is just right in front of us. If that's the case, then the Jazz get A.J. DeBonta. Because Darren Peterson's been the number 1 player in this draft for the entire draft until the cramp thing started.
Right.
And so if the cramp thing is really not a problem and there's not other stuff going on and everyone gets comfortable with that, then the Jazz get A.J. DeBonsa with the second pick of the draft. Because before Darren Peterson had any of these problems, and before they were, even after he had the problems and they were reoccurring, once they became reoccurring is when A.J. DeBonsa moved to the top of the draft. And I'm not convinced from the research I've done that A.J. DeBonsa changed. I just think Darren Peterson changed in people's minds. I don't think A.J. DeBonsa suddenly became better than what people thought he was. You guys know better than I do, but I'm watching his stuff. And if I watch Game 10 and I watch Game 20, there's little less space because no Saunders. But he actually got less good as the year went on, in my opinion. All of them did except for Darius Acuff. It's because you get in a conference play and you're playing teams that have seen you and they're scouted probably. But so that's the first question in there. Is if it's just an injury and they solved it, then if the second question is you're drafting in a manner that's trying to avoid injury, then I think Cameron Boozer vaults to the top.
Yeah.
Because the ground-bound 6'10", 250-pound players are not having the same tendon muscle problems. Sabonis gets hurt, but I think Sabonis was like a wrist or a thumb, right?
Yeah.
Şengün seemingly plays most of the time. Like those type of play. Paolo Banchero has had some of those problems, but most of he's had some oblique things. But most of those players that are kind of big and burly are playing right now. Jokic generally plays. He did have the awkward knee thing this year, but like that just happened. So, but I think third thing is the injury issue, not tanking, not any of the 23 other things we talked about all year. The injury issue is the biggest issue in the NBA. And I don't know the answer. And I'm very concerned about it. And I think it's the biggest issue the league has, the same way the NFL has had weeks in which, you are starting 17 second string quarterbacks. And they've made rule changes. I don't know what rule changes we can make, but this is the problem. It's not load management. It's that you have to cover so much ground and we're playing so fast. Did you see how fast the first quarter of that Oklahoma City San Antonio game was? And they were coming off a double overtime 15-round Hagler-Hearns fight.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't believe it. I was watching the first quarter. I was stupefied that they were playing at that breakneck pace. I couldn't believe it. And you had coaches, 10 players played in the first quarter of that game. It's the most players, or 20 players played in the first quarter of the game. It's the most players played in the first quarter of a playoff game in like 10 years.
You like Boozer because he can initiate the pick and roll. Is that not a fact?
That is the most intriguing thing to me about him right now. I started a project where I'm watching the final 5 minutes of all these players' close games, because I actually think the coaches tell you what they think they can do and can't do. And John Schreier went to Carlos Boozer at the top with the ball in his hands in a pick and roll a lot. And so it seems weird, like, okay, well, the 6'9", 250-pound guy can't be the pick and roll guy. Okay, but the 6'8", 235 guy, 250 guy in LA can do it, and the 6'8", 230-pound guy in Detroit can do it. So why can't the 6'10", 250 guy in Utah do it?
He can. Will they draft him?
Well, I mean, if Cameron Boozer, boy, that's going to be hard.
Just go with Boozer.
If Cameron Boozer can initiate the pick and roll, I think he might be really offensively special. Like,
and you think he can?
He's the best. Again, another research project, and this one won't take long. I just haven't done it. But I think if you look back through Sabonis' career, who's a really good pick and roll handoff big, I think Sacramento's offense has always been close to top 10. If you look back at Karl Anthony Towns, kind of a big that can spread it, can really shoot it, I think his offense has always been top 10. Now, I'm not sure Boozer's your center, but I do think if you have a big that can spread the floor 5 out and be the fulcrum of your offense, I think you have a top 10 offense automatically, maybe even a top 5 offense, and none of them can play pick and roll. this would be the first one who can do it in that manner. That gets pretty fascinating to me.
You jumped my next question. If Boozer's with a center who goes away from the rim, I just don't know that people can stop Boozer one-on-one. And I know he doesn't jump as well as most guys in the NBA, and I don't think it matters. I don't know that he reads everybody's feet and shoulders and the ball fakes and go left and right and a head fake. I just don't know that people can guard him one-on-one if he has space. They're going to need a second person.
Right. I mean, you run a pick and roll, you invert the pick and roll, so that Keontae or Ace, the 1 or 2, comes and sets the pick, and Boozer's coming off the pick, and now they're switching 1 through 4. So now you have a point guard or 2 on Boozer, and you're able to and you're spread so that there's no help coming. Yeah. He killed that guy. It's what he did all college.
Right. Yeah.
He kills that guy. Now AJ might kill that guy too, frankly.
Yeah, but that's not as surprising. I mean, AJ, as soon as you see him, you think that. But Boozer, don't underestimate him because he'll kill that guy too. He'll take him apart.
Yeah, and I think about the one I think gets interesting in Will Hardy's offense is, so you start to run the off-ball screen for Ace Bailey or even Keontae George. Somebody else has to be handling up top. We don't have a second ball handler, so this would be a little difficult to be doing for Keontae. But, and Boozer goes and sets the pick, and they switch. Well, then Boozer just rolls that guy into the middle of the lane immediately. Like, you're just kind of playing a small pick and roll where he's now rolling a small into the lane, and then he can really score. So, I don't think he's going to have a hard time scoring. I do have I'm not going to lie. I watch him defensively, and it's like, oh, God. He's not that quick laterally. He's not getting off the ground. And, frankly, nor is Cade Cunningham or Luka Doncic, right? No. My podcast today is, comp Cade Cunningham and Cameron Boozer. It gets really interesting. It seems weird. It seems counterintuitive, but who averaged more assists in college? Boozer. And they're not the same, but they're not Cade Cunningham 6'8", 225, 230. So one guy, and I also wonder if Cameron might lose a little weight when he starts playing in the NBA. That's the other thought. I think he might go down. So I'm very intrigued by Cameron Boozer. Very intrigued.
Yeah, I can see why. I think he's been a very good player for a long time. Seen him play many times because a lot of his games in high school were on television, and obviously Duke is always on television. I think that the draft is just one addition that the Jazz will make, and they probably will have some more. How much do you think whoever they draft will lead to some personnel decisions that if they drafted DeBonsa, they would go this way. If they drafted Peterson, they'd go that way, and put Boozer in the mix too, as far as what they do to augment the roster?
So honestly, if you draft DeBonsa or Peterson, I think it has very little impact on your core other 5 players. If you draft Cameron Boozer, you have to be comfortable with Lauri Markkanen playing all of his minutes as a 3. And I think that might be fine. But you're now playing Boozer 30 minutes a night, Kessler 30 minutes a night, and Jaren Jackson 34 minutes a night. And that is your center power forward rotation. Those 3 guys.
Yeah.
So there's no time for Lauri to slide down. So now Lauri's playing 34 minutes a night as your power forward. And Ace Bailey's probably playing the other 14 there. So now Ace Bailey's playing 24 minutes as your shooting guard. You need another shooting guard for 24 minutes, and you need another backup point guard, and you really need another ball handler badly. So your backup center, I don't think at that point you're paying Yusuf Nurkic. Your backup, your wing, your front, your 3-4-5 rotation is, you just need depth there, and that frankly is probably Kyle Filipowski is your extra big in some of that circumstances, at least for another year or 2, and he's priced well. And then you've got to figure out who your backup 3 is, just to cover, because you need one, but they probably aren't in the rotation. And then you need 1 or 2 guards in your added to your lineup of rotation players. If you're drafting Cameron Boozer. If you're drafting Darren Peterson, then you still need that guard. but Ace Bailey is now playing 24 minutes a night as your small forward and probably 14 minutes, 12 minutes a night as a shooting guard. And Lauri's playing 24 minutes a night as a 3 and probably 14 to 16 minutes a night as a 4. And Jaren Jackson's playing the other ones, and then you're backing up with Kessler and maybe a backup center, or you're rolling Jaren over there for a few minutes a night.
I'm very excited. Assuming the Jazz sign Kessler, I'm very excited to see what this looks like. We've never seen a Jazz team that has this kind of size and will most nights be much bigger than the opposition. We have seen skilled teams that are smaller achieve pretty well, both in the Boozer D. Will era and back in the Stockton Malone era, but they usually were giving up some size at key positions. This could be an enormous team, and I'm super intrigued. However, the one thing I have out there is where we started this with the amount of injuries in the NBA. Kessler, Jackson, and Markkanen together played 21 years in the NBA, and together they've only been able to play 70 games in a season 3 times. Now, I know those numbers are impacted by tanking. I think you add them all up, 9 of the seasons have been impacted by tanking. And 4 more have been impacted by the shortened COVID season. So this isn't a shot at their durability in the past, but nonetheless, I have very little that suggests that their bodies can endure 70 or 75 or 80 games because you want them to be healthy when you get to the playoffs because they could be top 6. Maybe they could win a playoff series in 2 rounds and are they really going to be healthy that whole time? Because there's such a load being put on these guys and we haven't seen them do it. And I get why we haven't seen them do it, but nonetheless, we haven't seen them do it. So I'm curious if that is something the Jazz fans should raise an eyebrow and worry about, or whether you just dismiss that with a wave of a hand.
No, I think it's real. You used to say that the average player in the NBA is going to miss 11 games. I think you probably need to start moving that to 15. And now start building your roster, assuming you're going to be missing. So this is where I actually think Isaiah Collier, Bryce sense about Cody's a little expensive, and Kyle Filipowski become very important to the Jazz. And their minute. I'm not sure I think that any of them are rotation players to start the year next year. But I'm not sure that matters because all these guys are going to be out. Like, if Flip is our 4th or 5th big, right? Let's say we draft Peterson or DeBonta, and Nurk comes back, and so you're Nurk and Kessler and Jaren and Lauri's your backup 4, and Lauri's your starting 3. Okay, they're going to all miss a bunch of games. Flip's going to play 50 games a year in the rotation.
Yeah.
Like, if they all miss, then Flip is the guy who steps in for, and that's where Flip's time last year really matters. If your guard line is Keontae, let's go with Darren, Lauri, Ace, whatever veteran guard you add to bring stability and ball handling, and Sensabaugh's kind of not in the rotation, well, anytime Ace or Lauri or the veteran misses some time, Bryce is coming in, and maybe Cody's coming in, and, Isaiah Collier's probably your 3rd point guard, and when whoever, he's coming in. And those guys are going to be able to have to work their way back into the rotation, I would guess, to prove that they've made the strides they've had to. It's a very different world for them, but where all the minutes they've been given in the last 2 years are very important.
David, we'll leave it right there for now. You're the man. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy.
Tip of the hat, by the way. I know a bunch of those guys are working really hard. Like the Jazz offseason program what Keontae did last year has leaked over, and these guys, the words I'm getting are these guys are working. Those guys they just all put out of the rotation are all working really hard to be in the rotation right now and deserve credit for that.
Thank you, David. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.
David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz Spring Football Tour. We're going to Arizona State. Chris Karpman, Sun Devil Source, 24/7 Sports, joins us at 9 o'clock right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK, should I just sit this next segment out?
Why?
Well, because it's spring football, it's Arizona State. You probably know 10 times what I know about this team. You should just take the bus and just drive it.
No, people want to hear from you. You're the star of this show, man.
So do you think, and this is, I think, a question for our next guest, Chris Karpman. We were talking earlier about Sarkisian's comments about the SEC, and I do think there's a half dozen programs at the top of the SEC that are really pretty good, and I don't think that the Big 12 has that kind of depth at the top of the league. I think there's 3 teams for sure. Is ASU about to have the kind of league where we're going to say there's 4 teams for sure?
Kind of season, you mean?
The kind of season, yeah. I mean, if they go out and win 9 or 10 games, it's kind of like, all right, you're not going to win 11, 12 games every year, but it's like the floor becomes 8 or 9 and the peak's 11 or 12, and then it just depends, are you healthy? Who are you playing in these big leagues? If you miss the other, powerhouse teams, it's easier to win.
Well, they lost Sam Levitt, obviously. He took the money and ran to LSU. Hard to argue. It's unscrupulous, I guess, but money talks, and they lost the running back to Texas. So take that, Sarkisian, a kid who ran for over 1,000 yards. He took off to Texas, and so they got to replace their 2 dominant, and obviously Jordan Tyson, who's an NFL caliber player, and was a first-round draft choice. So let me know how those guys do, particularly at quarterback. Now, they haven't named the kid yet, but it looks like it's the Kentucky transfer who played as a freshman last year. And and Dillingham's had a history, man. He took Bo Nix, who was on the scrap heap when he was at Oregon, and look at him now. Now, I don't know that it was all Kenny, but there's enough of a track record there that Dillingham, for whatever reason, puts his quarterbacks in good spots. And look what he did with Levitt, right? Got him big money. And I was in college, but still got him big money. So let me know, A, the kid's ability, B, his health. And then I can't say there's a surprise team, because if you go 6-3, that's halfway decent, particularly with all the injuries that they had. So, but I think they have an opportunity to finish in the top 4 if things break their way and that quarterback play is pretty good. Yeah. I think that they could, I'm not going to say a surprise team, because I think they'll never be a surprise team compared to what they did 2 years ago. Right. And if that's the standard for surprise, then no, probably it would have to be Colorado and Iowa State would be the surprise teams, maybe West Virginia. Everybody else, I think, I don't know that they would be that big of a surprise, because they're all decent. Just let's see what the health is, and let's see how the individuals play. But they have a chance. I wouldn't put them as a favorite. Our guy Sharon, how do you say him? Jayaraja put out a thing post spring and had him, I think, 7th or 8th, and that's probably fair going into the season.
I just think that he's, the first year, okay, he's getting it going. It was a bad year, whatever. The last 2, he's getting my attention here. You start averaging about 10 wins a year. He's 13-5 in conference. If they put together another good season, and all those storylines you just brought up are good, but if he carves out another, 10 wins, 6 or 7 of them in league, I don't see how we don't look at him and say, well, he's on his way to doing what he told you he wanted to do. He pointed at Kyle to you at Pac-12 Media Day, and Kyle was holding court talking to whoever else, and you were introducing yourself as ASU media in another land. And he's like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like if he does again, 19 wins in 2 years, so 10 or 11 wins. If he's on pace for averaging 10 wins a year, well, then you've done it. And you're a program that at the start of the year, I just assume, okay, you're in the top portion of the league. Just like I assume now Texas Tech's in the top portion of the league, and I assume Utah and BYU are. Now, Kyle is gone and Morgan's there, so the Utes have to sustain it. And they took some losses, but they didn't get gutted. Iowa State got gutted, right? That's a big lift. Morgan doesn't have a big lift. He lost some key guys. There's no doubt about that. But it's not a big lift. It's doable. So I've got Utah in until they show me they're out. But with ASU, I'm 1 year away from thinking the same thing about Dillingham, and he may well do it.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's accurate. I think you're trying to be as fair as possible without going over the top. And it's still, a little bit of let me see first. Mm-hmm. And if he does it this year, yeah. And the kid is with just a sophomore. Now you never know. He may take off to LSU next year for the big money. But the opportunity is there to be competitive.
Dillingham can spin that. I've listened to the guy talk enough. All the press conferences are out there. You listen to pretty much all of them. I just, get some of them. But I am sure if he brings a guy in and the guy blows up and the guy takes off because some school offers him, double the money, Dillingham is going to pitch every quarterback and say, listen, Bo Nix, go watch the NFL playoffs. I sent one guy to LSU. Now I sent another guy. Come here. You will play good quarterback. You will win games. If there's more money out there, there's more money out there. Cross that bridge when you get to it. First, you got to be good, and you got to win. And I know how to help you be good, and I know how to help you win. And he's going to have the story to back it up. So he'll have no end of the line of quarterbacks parading through Tempe to learn from him. He's good at this.
Yeah, it's the Kevin Young thing. Hey, call this guy.
Yeah.
Hello, Kevin. Mr. Durant, I'm Joe Blow, recruit. Oh, let me tell you about Young. And he can do the same thing. Hello, Mr. Nix. I'm Joe Blow. Oh, let me tell you about Kenny Dillingham. And Dillingham in his office, when he does where they have the video, and video's the big thing. We've got it right now. You can look at our two faces right now as we speak. Behind him, he has a jersey of Bo Nix.
Yeah. Hey, just a reminder.
Every second of the day.
Right? This guy.
I told you at Thanksgiving, his sister lives right next door, and he had a picture of handing over food over the vinyl fence.
Mm-hmm.
And what that signals is, I'm here. This is my home. Michigan or whomever, they all can contact me. But as long as ASU takes care of me, I'm here. My sister lives right next door. We trade food over the fence.
Yeah.
It's a recruiting picture. That's why he put it out there. The guy's shrewd.
Chris Karpman, Sun Devil Source, 24/7 Sports. How good is ASU? Are they about to join the elite of the conference on a regular basis? We'll talk with him next. Stay with us.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
If you walk into a room and can't remember why, it could be nothing or something more. If you confuse a familiar recipe, it could be a slip-up. Or it could be associated with amyloid plaque buildup in the brain. Amyloid is a protein that your body produces naturally, but a buildup in the brain could lead to memory and thinking issues. To see what may be behind your memory and thinking issues, talk to your doctor about getting a full assessment. It's never too early to start the conversation. Visit amyloid.com to learn more.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Truckers aren't just moving goods. They're making sure bakers get their chocolate chips and hotels get their tiny soaps. But truckers can't do this if they're not on the road. That's why Progressive has over 360 heavy truck employees to help truckers stay on time and on track. Quote truck insurance today in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined now by Chris Karpman, Sun Devil Source, 24/7 Sports. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. Thanks for joining us for a spring football tour. We're trying to get Ute and Cougar fans, get them up to speed on the competition. And I think ASU is on the brink of being perennial competition. They put together 2 good years, 1 great year, but 1 good year. And I'm intrigued by the way the program is changing. I mean, times are changing, the rules are changing. But I was reading this summary of where the Devils stand after spring, and there's this line. Basically, the writer is saying. Dillingham has said that to move big, strong people, you need to have bigger, stronger people, and that the size difference this year appears obvious on the offensive line. We listen to Kyle Whittingham forever, and Kalani Sitake worked for him, so he thinks the same way. Win the O-line, win the D-line, everything else gets a lot more clear. It gets a lot simpler. I've always felt like Arizona State had great skill players, but the O-line, maybe. Depends on the year. What do you think about this O-line?
Yeah, if you really zoom out even more than that, Kenny Dillingham has talked for years about Kyle Whittingham's Utah program being his North Star. When he arrived at ASU, he said the discipline, the structure, the physicality, the ability to wear on your opponents at the line of scrimmage, that was what he was pursuing. That was what he was orienting his program to try to be. So they lost Maxi Hanachor, who was a first-round NFL draft pick at right tackle, and they also lost a few other guys that were starters or part-time starters. And even with that, their offensive line looks like it hasn't lost a beat. They added Tana Alo-Tupuola from Georgia Tech. He was a starter last year as a sophomore. Remember Haynes King? They had one of the best rushing attacks in the country. And Tana Alo-Tupuola was a really big factor in that. He reminds me a lot, in fact, of Lee Faltanu, who was ASU starting center 2 years ago in the Big 12 championship season. So that's a big development. Makai Stewart was a starter last year in the second half of the season at right guard as a true freshman, and he's one of the best-looking guard prospects that I've seen at ASU in recent decades. Like, he's an NFL guy, still young, but massive. He's like 350 or close to that pounds and 6'5", very physical, heavy hands. They have at tackle two guys returning who started in the Sun Bowl against Duke in Jalen Clem and Chance Westbrooks, both of whom are in a reasonably decent chance to be able to start this year. So the size and physicality really at both sides of the line of scrimmage and throughout the whole team, including in their secondary, getting longer and more athletic, it definitely noticeable this spring that continues to uptick.
We know they lost Sam Levitt to the big money of LSU, Raleek Brown to the big money of Texas, and Jordan Tyson to the big money of the NFL. Now, I know that they brought in a number of transfer receivers, including a kid from Colorado like Jordan Tyson, so they're extremely high on him and a couple other guys. Quarterbacks, they brought in a kid who used to be at Fresno, a kid who used to be at Kentucky, started, a New Mexico kid, they have a high school kid, and then the kid from El Paso. So they got a number of kids to choose from. And then I think at running back, they got Brown, the other Brown, Kyson, I think his first name is, back. He had an injury-plagued season. So could you just evaluate those three positions? Because those are three high-profile guys that they lost.
Yeah, exactly. Wide receiver looks to be in very good shape. Omarion Miller is a Colorado transfer. Jordan Tyson had transferred from Colorado also. Reed Harris transferred from Boston College. He's 6'5", 220, tremendous catch radius, had a very productive spring. He's different than guys that ASU's typically had. And then Raiden Vinesbright had 20-something catches last year as a true freshman at Washington. He's originally from Tempe. So that was arguably the top transfer trio wide receivers of any team in the country. Like Miller and Harris were both ranked in the top 5. So that's going to help ASU try to get past the loss of Jordan Tyson. And nobody's going to be as good as Tyson, but I think collectively they might actually end up being as good or better because they also returned Jalen Moss, who had a really big game in the Sun Bowl, and Jaron Hamilton, who's a big play guy, and Derek Eusebio, who's a good slot receiver. At running back, you nailed it. Like Raleek Brown, he cost like a lot of money, like probably more than what the rest of ASU's running backs combined cost between revenue share and NIL. And yet the group still looked very good. Kyson Brown got hurt, as you said, against Mississippi State. He had been the starter ahead of Raleek Brown at the beginning of last year before the injury. And he had a good spring. ASU added a kid named Marquise Gillis that I think people are going to come to learn a lot about. He ran for 1,100 yards last year at Delaware State, playing for Clinton Portis and Deshaun Jackson, and looked very good. In the second part of spring, he's 225 to 230 pounds, but still a good athlete, runs well. He's a hard dude to tackle. And they have Jason Brown, who had 130 rushing yards against Duke in the Sun Bowl. So they're, I think, going to be in good shape at running back, even with that loss. Quarterback, I think, is the most important position to evaluate on the team. Cutter Boley started as a redshirt freshman last year at Kentucky. Difficult schedule, super tough in the SEC. A little bit turnover prone. I think he had 10 interceptions and lost a few fumbles. So that's going to have to be managed. But he did a very good job in the second half of spring of avoiding any jeopardy throws in scrimmages that we saw, and looked like he's able to get the ball quickly to facilitate the offense, and he has the ability to get the ball down the field. He's 6'5", 220, big kid. So I think he's going to be the starter. I would say 80% likely that he's going to be the starter. Mikey Keene's a very good backup. He had started at Fresno State and UCF, and they have a freshman, Jake Fetty, from El Paso, who looks like a future star. He's actually quite similar to Sam Levitt in terms of his physical attributes, and his sort of talent level really, really pops. He's probably the second best looking true freshman that I've seen in spring ball in recent decades after Jaden Daniels.
We can talk about offense all we want, and I grew up watching Eric Coryell and the Chargers, so I can talk about offense all day long. But Texas Tech and BYU rode two really good defenses to the Big 12 title game. ASU was third against the rush. They were 13th against the pass. What has been done to upgrade the pass defense?
Yeah, they added a lot of experience and length. Free safety was a problem to some degree last year after Xavier Alford had a back injury that didn't allow him to play almost at all. And to try to improve that position, they added Lyric Rawls, who led Kansas in unassisted tackles last season. He's a senior veteran presence. He started at multiple Big 12 schools. I think he's come in and he immediately became a team captain, which is tough to do. So I think that's going to shore up that position. They added Ashton Stamps, corner from LSU. He was a 2-year starter, and then last year he was their number 3 corner, which at LSU is really nothing to slouch at. He was, I think, second in the SEC in 2024 in pass breakups. So with Keith Abney going to the draft, Javen Robinson going to Wisconsin, he's a really important player. They also have Rodney Bimage, who I think he's a sophomore. He's been one of their most talented young players on the roster, and I think he's kind of ready to step into a much bigger role and probably start. They added a few other transfer corners. The big thing is a lot more length. All these guys are over 6 foot, and they're longer bodied. Brian Ward, ASU's defensive coordinator, loves to play a lot of cover 3 zone, and he wanted to get guys that have more opportunity to get their hands in passing lanes and on the football. And then I think that they have a few other safeties that are very intriguing. Boogie Wilson, who started in place of Alford at free safety, will probably move down to play nickel. And Montana Warren's a team captain who's a very physical player. He's been a top backup in recent years, and he's got a very good chance now going into his junior season to play the strong safety position. Overall, I think that's kind of where they need to really show up, because I feel like their front 6 is in very good shape going into this year.
For a while there, they couldn't kick a field goal to save their lives. Last year, their punting team sucked. And so I know they had the one kicker was a senior. So tell us the of their place kicking and their punting.
Yeah, you correctly said that. They were the worst punting team that I've ever seen. I think they were second worst nationally in net punting average. So it was awful. And Dillingham was extremely candid about his frustrations about that, and he has been the last couple of years. Their starting punter last year had a quad injury, and he was sort of like playing at maybe 80% for a lot of the year when he was able to play. But even when he was 100%, there were consistency issues, and especially with his field flipping and pin punting. And so they added Nick McClarty from Ohio State. He's an Australian. He was the backup early in his career at Ohio State. Huge leg. He's 6'7", 255 pounds. Ooh. And there were, I'm not exaggerating, there were like times when he hit 80-plus yard punts. His consistency when they get into 11-on-11 settings in terms of how quickly he's able to go through the mechanics and get the football off, that's not as dialed in as you would want it to be. But I think he's making progress, and he has a chance to really upgrade that position.
Okay, well, I'm not going to go to the fridge for more food when ASU's punting then, because either he completely flips the field and it pins the other team and the defense. What an advantage for them, right? Or he gets it blocked and it's a score the other way. So I got to watch. I got to watch when ASU punts.
Yeah, no, it's true. When you're not worried about people coming at you, you can uncork pretty big ones consistently, and he did. But then, when you get the 11 guys out there,
it's
different. It was a little bit more inconsistent. Yeah,
it's different. Absolutely. Yeah, I back in the day I had some personal experience with that. I can attest that's all true. There's horrific stories. Horrific. Yeah. On the whole, do people feel good enough about the direction of this program that they're going to invest in it? Because I think what we're seeing in college football now is the teams that are winning, I don't know how they do it, but somehow they get out, they find people with money, and they give. And when the team is struggling, there's a little doubt, people hold back their money. Sometimes they even say, well, I'm going to hold it back for 1 year because this coach is going to be gone. These are the stories we're hearing out of Baylor, that there's money trees they can't shake because people don't completely buy into Aranda. So where does that sit? Because we know money's been a big issue with ASU.
Yeah, it's better than it's been at any point in this modern era that we're in right now. In fact, a booster named Brian Sweetie, who had been a senior executive at several major companies, including eBay and Pepsi, he's committed $10 million in an endowment that's going to be in Kenny Dillingham's name that ASU is going to be able to utilize how it wants. And then there was also around a $10 million donation that's part of a naming rights gift that's going to be on ASU's new indoor practice facility, which they're going to break ground on here in the next few months. They sold out every game last year, and I think that there's more of an ability for Dillingham to connect with boosters than his predecessors by far. So I think that there's been a pretty marked uptick in terms of the amount of support. ASU had the top 15 to 20 transfer portal class in the country, which, as you guys know, that's not possible unless you have a little bit more money to throw around to some of those transfers. I don't think ASU is quite to the level of BYU probably at this point in terms of how flush it is with cash for its roster. I'm certainly not close to Texas Tech, but I would put ASU in the tier that would be below those teams, like among the other best teams in the Big 12. And I think that the roster is reflecting that.
Yeah, I think you did a podcast with that Sweetie, if I remember correctly, and I listened to it. It made me a little nervous. I know that he did a few podcasts, but when he started talking about how the offense needs to be a little more creative, that made me a little uncomfortable right there because, okay, donate your money, but don't tell me how to run a football team in a program.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. The backstory on that, though, is he has a very good relationship with Kenny Dillingham, like personal relationship. In fact, he is hosting ASU staff and some other people at his home for a party in next weekend. And so there's and another aspect about Dillingham is he's extremely self-critical and very much willing to listen to people's perspectives to challenge his way of thinking. So I think that Brian Sweetie kind of goes in that mode. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that coaches really want to hear from boosters about their football opinions. Generally, I get that. I think in this particular case, though, it's given their relationship, as I understand it, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
That is hilarious, though. I like that. Although if they have that kind of relationship, he might be quoting Kenny. He might literally be quoting him. Like Kenny's like, I want to open it up. But you got to have the right guys before you open it up. So there might be that kind of conversation. Who knows?
Yeah, it's funny. During spring ball, Kenny ran over to Jalen Strong, former ASU star wide receiver, who I was talking to at the time, and he said, some words to that effect, basically, like about, certain types of throws and routes and whatever. I don't want to give away too much, but because of the private thing. But I think that there's some truth to what you just said.
Yeah.
The recruiting news this week was big with the Hildebrand kid, one of the Chandler schools. I can't remember which one. He's the number one player in the state for what it's worth. And that's the first time since N'Keal Harry. Now, N'Keal Harry, I believe, was raised by his grandmother over there in the East Valley and wanted to stay local. I listened to Hildebrand. He's talking about his grandfather wants to see him play, served in multiple U.S. wars and all that stuff. So a very patriotic man there. I'm wondering, is that a circumstantial thing or more of a kind of sign of the times that finally there's a breakthrough with the Sun Devils being able to recruit some of the better players locally?
Yeah, you guys do a very good job of digging in the crates to find all of the really important things that are going on. I'm impressed. I would say it's a combination of both. His family, his grandfather has ASU season tickets. I talked to him for a while the other day. He has been going to ASU football games since 1961. And Jake Hildebrand's family is extremely close-knit and very grounded. And I think that the ability to have that support system be close to him for college was very important to him and his dad. I think it mattered a lot to him, who's been extremely involved in his athletics career to this point. And Jake grew up going to ASU football games, and it mattered a lot. But then also he said to me, look, Maxie Honachor didn't even play high school football. And 4 years later, he's getting drafted in the first round. And that's not possible without the development of ASU's offensive line coach, Songa Tuitele, who's done a very good job and turned down USC and some other big jobs. Like, he's as good as any offensive line coach that I've seen at ASU when you're factoring in the evaluations, the recruiting, the development piece, schematics. So I think, there's a little more interest in ASU locally. It's still very tough to get the top players, especially when a lot of them are being offered more money to go elsewhere. But the way that the local recruits perceive the Sun Devils has definitely changed under Dillingham's tenure.
Well, forget that old cliche, recruit the mom, recruit the grandparents. That seems to be paying off.
Yeah, I mean, when you can. That's
right, yeah, when
idea.
you can, sure. Yeah. All right, well, Chris, we appreciate – one last thing before I let you go. PK is an ASU grad, so that's part of the reason – it's a big part of the reason we're so dialed in on the program. And one of his theories – and I'll ask this so it doesn't sound as bad as when it comes out of his mouth. One of his theories, though, is both Arizona and ASU have had problems keeping local guys home. Both of them have had big years but have had problems sustaining it. But there's actually – maybe there's an opportunity here. Do you think there's a chance that – Arizona can follow up what they did last year, and ASU can follow up what they did the last 2 years? That would be kind of a high watermark for the two programs together.
Yeah, I haven't studied Arizona's roster departures and arrivals quite as well. I think that they probably are not going to take a big step back, if it is at all. I think ASU looks definitely like a bowl team. It's hard to really compare that to what other Big 12 teams look like right now, because we're in this world in which the transfer portal changes so much. So, but look, Dillingham is really good. I can't stress enough. Like, I've gotten to know these coaches personally, the last 5 ASU football coaches. He's superior. Like, he's easily more impressive when you actually get into the weeds on issues and you talk about things at any level of depth. I think he's competitive, hungry. He could have gone to Michigan. I don't know how clearly that's been really reported, but Michigan aggressively courted Kenny Dillingham before hiring Kyle Whittingham. Not saying that he's a better coach than Kyle Whittingham by any stretch, but he is a lot younger and of the same ilk in a lot of ways. And Dillingham decided to stay, and he did that because of the support that he feels like is in place at ASU and the opportunity that they have in the Big 12. So I don't really see ASU taking any sort of a big dip to the backward, even after losing so many starters.
Chris, we'll leave it right there. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. That was a great conversation.
Thanks, guys.
Chris Karpman, Sun Devil Source, 24/7 Sports. You know, the thing you got going for you, PK, if you take off your media hat and just put on your one of your 47 ASU caps, is that I do think there's a chance, especially with a quarterback coming back at Arizona, there's a chance here Arizona and Arizona State could both be good again. But where you've got the upper hand is you got a guy with local ties. I totally buy the Michigan stuff, and I buy it for exactly the reason Chris just said. Why would you get Kyle if you could get a similar version of Kyle who's 20 years younger? And let's face it, the biggest difference between the two, Kyle's probably better at putting defenses together. And by probably, I mean he is. But when it comes to grooming a quarterback and transforming a guy who's got some talent but he's not quite on point, you'd obviously go to ASU, right?
Yeah.
He's got the track record.
For sure.
And with the importance of quarterback and the fact that you got somebody who's a generation younger, of course he'd be the first guy you'd go to. But if you're looking for a certain specific type of coach, you wouldn't go to 5 guys before you got to those 2. I mean, there's probably somebody else out there I'm not thinking of off the top of my head right now. But why would they not be 2 of the top 3 or 4 coaches you speak to? They're exactly what Michigan needed. And the younger guy is busy handing food over the fence, so he doesn't take the job. And the older guy is like, well, I just got a $13 million buyout to go away. Yeah, let's do it. So I totally get why it played out. Arizona may not be able to hold their guy, though. He didn't have the local tie.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. He does have a little bit of a tie to Tucson. But I think we need to note that I think that Kyle wasn't necessarily Michigan's second choice because I don't think he was officially available when they were interviewing or pursuing Dillingham. Yeah. It came after the fact. He resigned after Dillingham, if I have my timeline right, after he said no.
Yeah.
So he wasn't, it's like, well, we chose this guy, but he didn't choose us, so we went to our second pick. Yeah. I think Kyle literally hadn't made a decision. Yeah. They basically, Utah hadn't told him, we don't want you here yet.
All right, DJ and PK, when we come back, the headlines. What you missed in this show. Next, stay with us.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses, plus free delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number. To a good life sleep.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Nerds. Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Personal finance can feel like a pop quiz you didn't study for. This podcast is your study guide. On NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast, you'll hear from trusted journalists who explain the why behind major financial decisions. You'll get research-backed insights and clear pros and cons, whether you're planning a big purchase or just want to grow your wealth. Make your next financial move with confidence. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast on your favorite podcast app.
Slacker Radio headlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 1-855-TRAJAN1 or visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. Time to get you up to date on everything we missed in this show. Pablo Mastroeni joined us, RSL head coach. Talked about the last game in Minnesota before the 7-week break for the World Cup. It's been a heck of a run here. If they win on the road in Minnesota, and they have not been good on the road, and Minnesota has not been good at home, so that's weakness versus weakness there. But if they were to win, that'd be 28 points in 14 games, and that would be quite a start. 2 points a game would easily be the club record, put them on pace for 68. The record is 59. A couple of years ago, Pablo had a 59-point team. So they've been flying here at the start, but it's a long break. We don't know if Diego Luna and Xavier Gozo are going to the World Cup, nor do we know what will happen when we hit the summer transfer window. Gozo's been talking about going. Will there be a big money offer? So a lot of question marks, Pablo, a lot of question marks, but a great start for RSL, especially if they can put the exclamation point on it tomorrow.
Though, I mean, he's openly spoken about it.
Yep. He wants to go. And it'll be interesting what his attitude is if he doesn't go. So we'll see what the number is.
Well, okay, but you don't go this year doesn't mean you're never going to go. I mean, just ball, continue to ball. I mean, that's the controllable spiel.
Yep.
I mean, you've taken this team by storm here. He's not even 20 years old yet, is he?
He's not. He's 19. Just turned 19. Right. He'll turn 20 next season. If he's here next season.
There's all sorts of time for whatever you want to accomplish, but be a literal true hometown hero. Yes,
Eagle Mountain, Utah, and he's got friends and family. Still lives at home. He's a 19-year-old. It's amazing. But 6 goals, 4 assists. He's leading the team and tied for the lead in goals and second in assists and number 1 when you add them together in goal contributions. The 10 is tops. So that game is tomorrow at 2:30. You can hear that one here on the Zone. Now, we talked with David Locke about the NBA draft. So many pieces to the puzzle, PK. He did bring up if Washington can figure out the health question with Peterson, that the season started with Peterson number 1. And when he is on, he is wildly gifted. I mean, his talent is obvious. If he missed like 10 games, and some of the games he played weren't on TV and they weren't against anybody. But if you caught one of the 10 or 12 games he played against pretty good competition, you saw him catch fire, when I saw it, I was like, well, that's why everyone's saying good things about that guy. I mean, it's obvious. It's overwhelming.
Well, I had gone back well before his Kansas tenure and looked at him because he was gaining such steam there in the world of college basketball, the world of NBA basketball, high school basketball. And if you're looking for a wing guy, he's a complete package. Whatever you want in a wing, he can do, and do at a very high level. So be it. And if they don't get him, then take who's available. If they get him, great. And he should be a big-time player. And the funny thing is this injury spiel, that's the only thing preventing him from being number 1, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's the purest player available. And so you would take that. And Washington decides he's good to go, they'll take him. And then you decide between Boozer and DeBonsa. And if he is not taken, then you decide between Peterson and Boozer, unless there's some other type of trade. But we'll wait until that happens before we think, okay, that's a solid. Right now, they're going to get a good player. And then that player, determining upon what his work ethic is and how he fits in and all sorts of stuff, can end up being a 10-year starter for this team. There's no doubt in my mind.
And don't sleep on Boozer was his other message. Like Boozer, especially if he's on a team where you can get all 5 guys away from the hoop, just borderline impossible to defend one-on-one. I mean, it's not a one-on-one contest. They had those a long time ago, and I wouldn't mind if they brought him back. I think it'd be awesome. They're not going to, but it would be cool if they did. But he's got pretty much everything, and his game reminds me so much of his dad's game. He's doing it with a little more size, though, and probably it'd be interesting to talk to Carlos about that, because it all runs together after a while. Like, does Cam have more polish at this point in his career than Carlos did at the same age?
Yes.
I remember more Carlos later.
I think that
it's the way basketball's evolved.
Yes, and you're playing in such high-level stakes at a much earlier age, and the training and all that stuff, everything is advanced. It's why we see quarterbacks being able to come in and they don't have to sit for 3 years. They can hit the field. Not all of them, obviously, but there's been plenty of them. Bo Nix being a great example of having the opportunity and succeeding virtually immediately because of what they've been through and all of the off-season training. I think that it's hard for me right now to think that Cameron Boozer's footwork was as good as Carlos's, because Carlos had to do that. He was a little undersized for his position. And so you go back and look at some of his tapes, which I've done, and Carlos he was right there, a smaller version of like a McHale, he can go left, go right, to do all these things with his feet to put himself in position. I think Cameron might have more range, but Carlos wasn't asked necessarily to do that. That wasn't the level of the game back then when Carlos played, which is not that long ago, but nevertheless, there's been a change to where you were supposed to be a low block guy, and you often got the ball with your back to the basket and then turned around. Not Carlos could shoot the face up. There's no question about it. He was skilled offensively. I think Cameron, face up wise, is probably a little more skilled because he's been able and allowed to do it. And so he developed that. You have to develop that portion of your offensive game and arsenal, because that's what the game now requires.
Carlos was really good when he faced up at 15 feet. He just wasn't asked to do more than that. But I can see him hitting free throw line jumpers, nonstop. And then just to your point, the age difference, and Steve Cleveland said he saw this. He would go watch his grandkids play when he's still living in Fresno and coming on our show. And his grandkids are like 8, 10, 12. And he says literally the whole team empties out the ball bag and everybody goes straight to the three-point line before the coach says anything. They don't hit the layup, hit the 8-footer, hit the free throw, and then go out. The way all the coaches, he's I've told kids to do that, and that's just not what kids do anymore. And that's the generation that Cameron's in. So he took Carlos's skill from the 15-footer and immediately backed it out to the three-point line. So he's a massive weapon. And I get it if he still goes three, but, man, sitting there at three, Memphis could get really fortunate.
Jordan went three.
Right, yeah. But there aren't that many guys who went three who are going to come in as accomplished as Boozer. And then it's where do you take it from there, obviously. But, man, it's the right draft to have been a bad team. So, yeah. All right. That's some of what we were talking about. The Cavs, that was a letdown. The Knicks went on that 18-0 run in the third quarter. It was over. Cavs didn't punch back. They got off the deck in the same situation after losing twice in Detroit and won at 7. Seems like a bigger ask and doesn't seem like something you should be trying to do in back-to-back series. But they do have that experience to draw on. We'll see if they pull it off. Game 2 tonight in the West, Thunder and Spurs. I expect it's 2-2 when we get back here Tuesday morning after the holiday weekend, PK. What do you think?
2-2?
Yep.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, I probably would go, if you gave me the options, which is 1-3, 3-1, 2-2, I'd probably go 2-2 because there's a sliver of difference so far. Yeah. Who plays better in each game will determine who wins. They could play best of 9, best of 11, and I would probably still say the same thing, however many games you wanted to put in there.
David Locke, listen wherever you get your podcasts. He came on and said he was surprised they played 20 guys in the first quarter of game 2 because coming off a double overtime game, everybody was flying out there because they know you just can't give away possessions. A lot of NBA games you can in the first quarter. There's time to recover. But these two teams are too good and too evenly matched. And so there's this sense, better not mess around and give something away. Could come back to bite us.
Yeah, and I think both know, hey, if we win this series, there's a really good chance we're hoisting that trophy.
Yep, I think they both think that for sure. All right, your feedback next. Stay with us. Join Scotty G and the coach, Tim Lacombe, Tuesday from 10 to 2. Only half the show. 10 to 2 at RGS Exteriors, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. RGS Exteriors. Question of the morning, Steve Sarkisian, presumably referring to Texas Tech, says Texas backups will probably go undefeated playing Tech schedule this year. How about that? Brian, he can say whatever he wants. No one will never have to prove that. Good point. He could just pop off.
Yeah, I think he's politicking, and he's a little perturbed that Texas Tech has stolen the spotlight. No, I have never been to Lubbock, but I've been to Austin multiple times for work, and it's a fine place. And Terry South, our old producer, said Lubbock isn't.
That
was served a mission there.
He says it's dusty and it's windy. Two things you need to know about Lubbock.
I had a
the wind's going to blow, and the dust from outside of town and the farms and the hills, they're going to blow in.
My college roommate from BYU served a mission in the Lubbock mission, and let's just say swore up and down he'd never be visiting again.
Yeah, so here's this upstart, and it's not sitting well. And the pressure with Texas
is huge.
Is always enormous.
You just can't win. You got to win big. You got to win Heisman's. You got to win everything that there is possible to win. You have to win, right? And I've been in that stadium and been in that community, as I say, and it's just, it rivals anything. I mean, everything is bigger in Texas because it's true, especially football.
Wait a minute. Everything's bigger in Texas. I thought New York. Everything's bigger in New York. Wait a minute. Now I'm confused.
Well, that's what they say, but certainly not college football is not bigger in New York. I can guarantee you that.
No, I can guarantee you that one. But both those places are just pretty sure that they're the center of the universe. And obviously the center of the universe is wherever we are, PK, clearly.
Well, my wife is the center of my universe.
That a kid. Bravo. I can feel Jackie rolling her eyes right now. Amber says talking schedule strength after sweating out a win over Vanderbilt is nasty work. That's a good line, Amber. I do want to say this, though. I think in this whole era of NIL, if there's one team I have more respect for than I had 5 years ago, it's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt.
Would it be Indiana?
Well, I'll tell you why Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Vanderbilt, although Indiana's right there, you're right. But Vanderbilt got drilled for years in the SEC. For years, right? They're just terrible. And now NIL's legit, and all of a sudden Vandy grads are throwing money out there left and right. They're not the little sister of the poor. All of a sudden they're out there winning 9 games. They get a winning record in the SEC, and even when they lose, Texas is sweating. It's like everybody in that league was cheating, and everybody knew it. And Vanderbilt knew it. And they stuck and said, you know what? We're Vanderbilt. We're not going to cheat like everybody else. They didn't go on probation like everybody else, and they certainly didn't win like everybody else. But as soon as it was legit, they're like, yeah, let's do it. Like, they really stuck to their guns, PK, and they took beatings, and there could have been an easy way out. There could have been the, hey, everybody else is doing it. And everybody else was doing it in the SEC. I got a lot more respect for Vandy. And you're right, Indiana's completely changed their place in the football universe. So I don't want to dismiss Indiana, but Vanderbilt, amidst the SEC and all the crazy stories we've heard, they never got in trouble and they never won, and they were fine with it. But now that the rules are different, they're like, let's do it, and they are.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. I would go with El Paso because they've sucked forever, and they know they're going to suck, and they're not going to change.
They still show up for the Sun Bowl.
Like that kid that Chris Karpman was talking about, the freshman who reminds him of Sam Levitt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he grew up in El Paso and played high school ball in El Paso. So if you ever get a kid, he's going to leave.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything about Lubbock because I haven't been there, but I can tell you about El Paso. That doesn't look like it's easy. We would fly in there when UC Santa Barbara had to go to Mexico State. You fly in El Paso, stay overnight, you drive 45 miles to Las Cruces, you play there. Nothing. Everything looks dry and windy in that part of the world.
It's where I said hello to Meg Ryan in the gift shop at the El Paso Marriott.
You and your brushes with greatness, man. You got like 100 of them. I got nothing. I'm just walking around. These average people going through their lives.
She was out there filming a movie in the desert, and they were all staying at the Marriott, and the Utes were there. And I bump into Mark Rydalsh. Hey, do you know who's downstairs? And all of us, we go running downstairs.
Meg in El Paso, pop stars, rock stars in the elevator in Las Vegas, John Stockton at an elevator in San Francisco, Hervé Villachez at dinner at your parents'. I mean, you got a million of these stories. You got nothing.
What can I say?
Reed said Steve Sarkisian is just posturing. Reed's like, yeah, this is how college football works. It's the off season. Dude's lobbying, whatever. Reed's grounded. He's shaking it off.
Well, I think he's also recruiting in the state. It's all sorts of stuff there. That you still want to come here. We're still the big dog. They got this money, but it's not like Texas is little sisters of the poor financially by any stretch.
Yep.
So Sarkisian, give him credit, man. He's bringing attention to his program, and he must feel like he's got a level of security in order to start saying this stuff, right?
Yeah, or a level of insecurity, and he needs to say it. He needs to lobby. because they're giving them a lot of money and they want them in the playoffs.
But that's recruiting is lobbying. It's selling. It's salesmen. It's that type of stuff that you have to do all the time.
We're all done. We're out of time. Scotty G and the coach are next right here on The Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses, plus free delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life's sleep.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.